Alice Nitka. Nitka, did I pronounce that?
Senator, yeah, right. 100%.
Important meeting tonight. Huh?
Yeah, Bolton. Yep,
Alice is here.
good. More the merrier.
How you doing, Todd? Good. Okay, from Kelly Stetner. Sorry, I'm not super email. I'm boring the Zoom account. Okay. Thank you for that.
What else did we go over?
I see conservation commissions on the,
Yeah, it is.
and I'm just curious if there's any opportunity for that. The town doesn't really own a lot in the way of land. Any really outside of.
Maybe we should announce what that's about. Did somebody approach us about that? How did that get started?
There's a letter that came, a lot of towns I know do organize conservation commissions when they're thinking about land that might be, they have stewardship of, or public land that they may have some control over.
Was that generated from Two Rivers?
I think it was.
Okay.
Could double check it if you want. I don't know if there's much opportunity for a commission here to do much, other than, work with local landowners to maybe establish some bike or ski trails. And that sort of happened with, I think they called it Pasta. And I haven't seen any more activity by that group. But if there's interest in a conservation commission, we'd encourage people to do a little research on it and come forward, because we need people to staff it as well.
That's correct. I'd like to see that be a volunteer group for more community members than just the board all the time. There was a request from Two Rivers to organize a conservation commission. And I know my plate is full. I just don't have time to take on another project. But if it's something the community would be interested in, and we can get enough volunteers, that would be great. Otherwise, it'll go by the wayside.
I can imagine some things that people are interested in that a conservation commission might also do. It could have something to do with stopping the spread of roadside invasives, or that's also sort of a problem.
Ben should be on now.
Unless
He said he's muted.
He is, okay. A second.
And I'm in the meeting now. I need you to not make noise.
Yes, he's muted.
She's not.
So during the presentation, if everybody could, please mute yourself, with the exception, of course, Ben. He'll be presenting. It just helps with background noise. Welcome,
Hey,
Ben.
Jay, how are you?
Okay.
Good, how are you?
Oops.
Great.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
So I believe Ben is going to share some slides with us in coordination with Todd. And I also saw Steve.
I
Maybe
believe Steve Hanna's on also, yes.
Yeah, excellent.
Jay, who is Ben?
Ben is the head of dam safety for the state of Vermont.
Okay.
So let me know when you want me to start, Jay. I think I'm ready.
Yeah, we're ready for you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for having me tonight. My name is Ben Green. I am the Chief Dam Safety Engineer at the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation Dam Safety Program. Our program regulates non-power, non-federal dams statewide, and there's about 1,000 of those. So a non-power dam is a dam that doesn't have hydroelectric power associated with it, and a non-federal dam is a dam that's not either federally owned or federally regulated. We operate under state statute 10 VSA Chapter 43 dams. And as part of the regulation, we perform a variety of tasks, including we maintain an inventory of dams statewide. We run an annual registration program. We run a permitting program where dam owners, if they want to wish to build, repair, rehabilitate, replace, or remove a dam, they must submit an application through us. And there's a process for doing that and obtaining essentially a permit. And then we also run an inspection program where we perform visual dam safety inspections of the dams in our purview. And our program has inspected Amherst Lake periodically in the past. So with that, I'm going to try to share my screen here, and I apologize, I'm not used to this platform, but let's see. Okay, so I put up a PowerPoint. I don't know if did that come through?
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, can you make it full screen?
Let's see. Yeah. Sorry, I'm
Sorry.
on a blank here.
I struggle with these two.
Start slideshow.
Slideshow at the top menu bar, off to the middle.
Okay, sorry about that.
Awesome.
A little flustered there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Amherst Lake Dam tonight, and this is a good overview photograph that was taken of the dam during our March 2021 inspection that we did. This is taken from one of the abutments looking across. The current dam you see here was, as we understand, constructed in the 1950s to replace a former crib dam near the site. It's a concrete gravity dam, meaning that the dam retains water by the mass of the concrete. The mass of the dam itself resists the loads of the water, and that's what allows the dam to impound the water. The dam is fitted with, or was fitted with, flashboard pins and flashboards that you can see here in this photograph. This near side concrete wall that's right near the beginning part of this photograph, that's one of the abutments. And then on the far side, you can see actually that's Steve standing there on what we call the right abutment. And you can see the other side abutment wall, and he's standing over the gate structure at the dam. The drainage area, or the area of land that drains to this location, is about 19.1 square miles, and obviously impounds Amherst Lake, which is, as we understand, about 80 acres. As we understand, the dam raises the water level in this natural lake on the order of 6 to 8 feet, and it discharges into Echo Lake, which you can kind of see in the corner of this photograph here. The dam is privately owned. This is perhaps a little unusual, but not unheard case of a private dam that supports public uses upstream. However, being a privately owned dam, the owner is ultimately responsible and takes the risk and liability of dam ownership. And unfortunately, that means they don't have access to public funds for maintenance and repair. The dam has what we call a significant hazard classification, or significant hazard potential dam. Dams in the state of Vermont, as well as dams nationally, are ranked according to hazard potential. And what hazard potential is essentially, regardless of condition, it's in the event the dam were to fail, what are the potential range of damages that could occur downstream. So the classifications are high, significant, and low. A high hazard dam is one where if the dam were to fail, it would unquestionably lead to loss of life. A significant hazard dam, which again, this is currently rated, is a dam where failure or misoperation results in no probable loss of human life, but could cause impacts to property, economic loss, environmental damage, or what's called damage to lifelines, which probably doesn't apply here, but that's very important in structures that are necessary to maintain life. And then lastly, the last kind of hazard classification is a low hazard dam, which is basically a dam as if it were to fail, it would essentially cause no issues downstream. It would result in no loss of life and essentially no property damage. Based on the best information that we have at this time, a sudden failure of this dam under flood loading could result in the inundation of approximately, it's been estimated, 19 homes in one state park. The dam is rated in poor condition, and it has been so since at least 2005. Condition ratings, every time we do an inspection, we give the dam a condition rating, and the conditions that we use are good, fair, and poor. With poor meaning that there's significant structural and operation and maintenance deficiencies that are observable under normal loading conditions. So poor is, essentially the bottom of the condition ratings. So I guess with that, I'd just like to review some photographs I have here in my PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully this won't take but a few minutes, but so as I said, this is an overview of the dam right here with you can see the principal spillway and then the gate structure over where Steve's standing. And I'm going to advance the slides here. This is on the same day looking up at the dam from the downstream area with Echo Lake to our back. We're looking up at Amherst Lake here. You can see on the right side of this image, the right abutment wall, the spillway structure with the flashboard pins and the one flashboard installed. And then on the left side of this image, you can see the dividing wall between the spillway and the gate structure, the old wooden gate structure with the manual lifter above. You can see, again, that's Steve standing there on the platform, and then the left abutment wall can be seen as well. So I'm going to show you some photographs of the dam that we've recorded over time from our inspections now. So moving forward, here's a photograph of the dividing wall between the principal spillway and the outlet structure that was taken in August 2010. And you can see, can you folks see my cursor?
There's no way we can get this projected onto that screen.
That's the trouble. No, we hear earlier. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can see my cursor or not. I guess I just lost it though. Can everyone hear me okay? Is I coming through all right?
We see your cursor.
Okay, thank you. So you can see the dividing wall between the outlet works and the spillway. You can see there's some concrete erosion, the missing bottom part of the wall here, and some concrete degradation. And as we move over here to, that's August 2010, and as we move over here to July 2014, you can see that more of that concrete section losses occurred. It's undercut even further. And then again, as we fast forward to July 2019, it's undercut a long ways in. And then as of March 2021, I think the measurement we took, this wall is essentially undercut 10 feet in from the end and basically being buoyed up by several reinforcing bars. And so kind of what's going on here basically is that with this wall loses its support, it's slowly tilting outwards towards the principal spillway. Now this photograph's taken inside the outlet works and looking at the gate, looking upstream at the gate here. You can see the structural crack right here. Basically below this structural crack, the wall is relatively level. As we go up above that structural crack, it's tilted towards the spillway. And similarly, the abutment wall on the opposite side is also tilted. So the walls are racking towards the principal spillway. And I have past photographs of this location as well, but this crack is opened up and enlarged and the walls are tilting more than they were previously. This is a photograph of the dam when the flashboards were removed here, and you can kind of see the concrete degradation from a different angle, but you can see here as well as it's a little difficult to see in this photo, and I apologize when I try to move my there we go, try to move the zoom thing, it kept slipping the slides for me, but you can see the abutment wall as well degraded on the upstream side of the training wall here. There's a structural crack and a good amount of section loss here. So ultimately our main concern here is that structural failure of this wall could lead to a gate failure and potential, worst case scenario, a failure of this abutment. So based on these findings, and the recent inspection in March of 2021, we considered some alternatives. Alternative one was take no action. That's essentially what's been done to date. Basically, that's accepting the risks of a potential for an incident or a failure here. That really wasn't acceptable to the dam safety program nor to the owners. And in other situations like this, what's been done is the gate's been open entirely and the water level's been drawn down basically as far as the gate will bring it down. So that would result in about a 6 to 8 foot drawdown if we were to do that. And that would essentially, make the pond, restore the pond to basically what its natural condition was pre-dam, and the water would flow through the outlet structure. The advantages to that alternative was it eliminated the risk under normal flow conditions of a dam incident, and it greatly reduced the risk during a flooding condition, because we're starting with such a lower water level that if we had a flooding condition, the water level wouldn't come up anywhere near as high as it would have. And so it had those advantages, but obviously that alternative has severe impacts to summertime uses. So the third alternative that we considered here was an intermediate alternative, which is what we ultimately did, was to remove the flashboards and the pins and then cut the gate down to match, roughly match the elevation of the spillway, which is what we did, which results in about a 23-inch reduction in water level with no flashboards installed. This was sort of a middle ground compromise. It reduced, by our calculation, it reduced the normal loading on the dam on the order of 30%. It reduced the flood loading by having like a lower normal pool level than you'd have otherwise, and reduced the impounded volume of the dam on the order of 20 to 30%. We do fully understand this does cause some hardships to existing summertime uses, but still does maintain the pond for the, in a larger way, does still maintain the pond for some level of recreation use. And like I said, it seemed like it was a reasonable compromise at this time. We felt between kind of the worst case scenario of draining it down further. But take note, this dam, we do have concerns about this, ongoing concerns, even with the load reduction here of having the lower water level, and the dam does need to be continually monitored until a more permanent solution can be sought. I do, on this slide here, I have, again, the one on the left is the current spillway with the flashboards removed and the flashboard pins removed. And then the right image is the gate, which was cut down to about the water level, slightly above the water level, to reduce the loading on the gate and hopefully reduce the loading on the whole structure so that we reduce the risk of having a problem here. I've attached here, hopefully most of you have seen it. We attached our website that we built a website to help inform the public about these risk reduction measures. And the link is here on this webpage. I should have probably included my contact information here, which I didn't do, but I can distribute that.
Okay.
So moving on from there. So basically, what are the next steps? So we're a dam safety regulator. Our job is to try to reduce risks on dams across the state. And then, and then from there, we have our permit program to handle kind of whatever choice comes next in terms of what people want to do. And that's really ultimate decision that needs to, I guess, get made between the dam owner and the public at large in the town as to what final conditions do people want to see here. But I guess restoring the pre-existing summer water levels without making structural improvements to this dam is not going to be permissible. So there needs to be some sort of a project here to evaluate the dam, basically complete the recommendations in our recent inspection report, which include doing updated storm analysis for the dam, perform a structural analysis of the dam, perform updates to the emergency action plan. This dam has what's called an emergency action plan, and that's a plan that would be followed in the event that the dam were to fail. It gives you a sense for where the flooding could happen and identifies key players in that emergency management. One of the things that we'd like to see done and recommended in our report was that a more sophisticated dam breach modeling be done on this dam to see where exactly the flooding goes. We have some cursory mapping that's been done, but we don't have more sophisticated dam breach modeling to better understand the range of consequences. And then from there, an engineering feasibility study to look at different alternatives, typically a repair alternative, a rehabilitation alternative, and perhaps a removal alternative. And then from there, a decision needs to be made as to how people want to move this project forward, and then design, obtain permits, and implement the chosen alternative. So I guess with that, I'll release my sharing here, and well, happy to take questions.
Yeah, if you have questions for Ben, would you please just state your name first?
I have a question. Am I speaking there or am I speaking over here? I'm speaking over there.
Yep.
Hi, Ben. How you doing? Keith Cappellini, Selectwood, Town of Plymouth. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm just to confirm, now as a privately owned dam, if I understood you correctly, there is no remediation in terms of the owner getting any type of funding from the state to repair the dam. Is that correct?
That's correct. Unfortunately, for dam rehabilitation, right now there is no available, grant or loan programs.
For a privately owned dam.
Privately owned dams, correct. And in fact, that includes really any owner type dam. Unfortunately, there's not much for anything of funding to help with rehabilitation of dams, with the exception of essentially the highest risk, high hazard dams.
This one is, as you described, is categorized as a high risk, yes?
No, it's categorized as a significant hazard.
Significant. What would be your, I mean, dollars and cents wise, what would be your suggestion in terms of getting it fixed? Who should fix it? Who should pay for it?
Well, ultimately, according to the new dam safety rules and in generally how these projects work is ultimately it's the dam owner that is responsible for maintaining the dam in a safe condition. So typically addressing these issues falls to the dam owner, which in this case is a private owner.
Right.
So
that's the way I understand it. And so what if the private owner doesn't wish to repair it?
If the private owner doesn't wish to repair it, and and there's no forward movement on trying to find a reasonable alternative, regulatory action will ultimately be taken against them at some point in the future. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but that would be the ultimate measure. Yes, by the state. Yep. To either take measures to repair the dam and make it safe or remove the dam.
Could the state take steps to remedy the repairs on its own if it considered it to be some type, of risk to property owners, et cetera, et cetera? Is that something the state has done before or would consider doing? Could you?
Typically, that would be a kind of an unusual case. I think if it got to that point where we felt the risk was so high and there was no forward movement, nothing was getting done, we would take further risk reduction measures, and that would be simply we'd open the gate entirely and drain the lake. That would be the measure that the state would take at this time, if that came to pass.
The nuclear option, so to speak.
Yes, that would ultimately. Well, I hate to call it the nuclear option, but yes, so the gate would be open and the pond would be drained, and I guess ultimately a more permanent solution like that would be sought if the project were just simply ignored.
We have a question from Bruce Zonka.
Thanks. It just took me a second on mode. I'm with I'm downstream a little bit from this. I'm Bruce Zank. I'm the co-president of the Lake Rescue Association. Ben, I'm interested in some more specificity in regard to failure and what effect that would have on the bodies of water that are downstream from that, specifically Echo Lake and then later Lake Rescue. All of these folks are along the the Black River, and we have significant sedimentation problem. We're actually have a permit with the DEC to do some dredging on our lake because of sedimentation in the next 5 years. And we're just wondering if you could give us some more granularity on what the risk is for the other water bodies of the area.
Sure. So, like I said, right now we have a somewhat cursory analysis that's been done that shows that in the event of a dam failure, and this kind of assumes a worst case dam breach during a flood condition, again, there could be up to 19 homes that get flooded to some level in one state park. In terms of the environmental conditions with the dam failure, undoubtedly there would be sediment, transposed or sent downstream that would impact, water quality and environmental habitat downstream of the dam. We can't really quantify that this time. I don't think we really have a great sense for what quantity of sediment would become mobilized in this case. One of the things that we'd like to see done is to have the emergency action plan updated with updated dam breach models that would help us to kind of have a better handle on the actual consequences, the range of consequences, because like I said, right now the information that we have is fairly cursory.
Can you spitball it for me? I mean, big surge of water comes down, mm-hmm. Lake level rises on Echo and Rescue, big problems, and then what happens afterwards, after say if the dam failed and it was drained. I'm just trying to get an idea what kind of problems we might have to plan for or look for.
Yeah, like I said, significant hazard. So we're based on what we know now, we're anticipating some level of property damage. And, again, I don't have a number to estimate how much sediment's going to be, transposed downstream. It's going to depend on how the failure occurs. But I guess if you had a worst case, full failure of the dam, it could potentially be a fair amount of sediment that would come down through the lakes. I guess one reason why it is a significant hazard is you do have those lakes that are going to somewhat absorb those flood waves, as opposed to like a riverine condition where you wouldn't have that, and you wouldn't have that storage to help attenuate that flood flow. But we're still anticipating having some level of property damage and some level of environmental damage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just Jay Coleman. Just wondering if a nonprofit was formed meeting 501c3 guidelines, say like the Friends of Amherst Dam was formed, would that qualify for any state funding potentially? Does that sort of remove that barrier?
Well, no, I don't think. I mean, really, the issue with grant or loan funding to help with this help with a rehabilitation project is just the fact that there's really not funding available in that arena. What action does have available funding right now is dam removal. There is funding programs to help with the removals, typically for their environmental benefits. And so from an activity standpoint, that's really the only activity that could get partial or full funding, at least at this time, with programs that are available right now.
I have a question. Yeah, Ben, I have a question. Rick Kaminsky, Selectman. Your lack of funding comment, does that apply to design also? Or would there be any funding available for design work?
Again, if it's rehabilitation design, typically there's no programs available that will help for a dam of this classification for design, permitting, or construction funding.
Okay, thank you.
We have a couple more questions. We have Tim Sink and then followed by Kelly. So Tim, I'll ask you to go first.
Okay, Ben, my question is this: you talked about draining the lake to affect this. That's the one alternative, is to take the dam out and drain the lake. Have you guys studied what that's going to mean to the lake itself and to the people who live on it? I mean, and what it's going to mean to the environment around the lake? How is that going to be beneficial?
The answer is no. I have not studied it. We don't really. I mean, so at this point, there's kind of two things that happened here. There was these deficiencies that spurred the risk reduction measures that got done, and then kind of that portion is done. And now the second part is what happens next. And so in that kind of alternatives analysis of what happens next, typically, as I understand, there is a feasibility study that's, I believe, starting. I'm not. I don't know all the details on that. Perhaps Larry can speak more about that, but I believe dam rehabilitation and dam removal options are being studied to kind of answer some of those questions that you just asked about what are the impacts of removal, the benefits and the pros and the cons of removal. What are the pros and the cons of rehabilitation? So people can understand the full gamut of what the possibilities are and what the impacts are.
So how can we expect the state to supply that information to those of us who are affected by that?
I believe the feasibility study is going to start to explore those issues, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe there's some public meetings as part of that process. That work's not being performed through with anything I'm really involved in, so I don't know the details entirely, but I believe there's some public process to that feasibility study. So the chance for input will be there, and I assume the final result will kind of take in, will include all the impacts of each alternative.
Kelly
From my standpoint, I'm a dam safety regulator. Our goal is to have a safe dam. That can mean many different things. That can mean a repair, that can mean rehabilitation, that can mean reconstruction, and that can mean removal. Those are all avenues to get to a safe dam. So we would, any of those that are designed up to current standards, any of those options that are designed to the current standards and to our standards would be permittable.
Kelly Stetner?
Thank you. Yes, Kelly Stetner. I run the Black River Action Team. I'm based down here in Springfield, but obviously the Black River forms all the lakes up there. I have the headwaters up there in the Black Pond. So for the last couple of months, I've been in touch with Alicia Armstrong, who is a homeowner. She and her husband own property right there by the public boat launch on Amherst. And when they were already going to sign up to be monitors of the lake, that were going to get out there with Oliver Pearson and the Lakes program, and drop a disc to look at clarity and monitor the chlorophyll and really start gathering data on the lake when this whole dam question came up and the whole issue became much more of an issue. So I've been kind of brought in on a lot of the grassroots end of this, not so much the regulatory end. I was kind of hoping to see Todd Manise on the call tonight, because I think he would also speak to those public meetings that have already started. Just grassroots lakeshore owners, property owners, folks that are concerned, folks downstream, the lake rescue folks, people on Echo, everybody within the watershed, almost a micro watershed up there. They are gathering, they are putting together their thoughts, getting information from Ben and Todd and Pete Fellows, who I think is on the call tonight. And so there is grassroots effort going on. There is the roots, the beginning of a nonprofit starting. I think it's being called Amherst Lake Friends right now. And if anyone is interested in further information and getting involved in that, whether it's we're going to look at all the options and all of the different results from those engineering studies and start looking at, with the dam owners as well, what kind of options might be feasible. Would there be some fundraising that we can do? What kind of scope, what kind of scale, what could people want to see on the lake? What could we all live with seeing, and how we can try to work together on that. So I just want to put that out there if folks are curious where else to, chime in and have a voice and listen to what others are saying on the lake and within the micro watershed. I'd be happy to put folks in touch with the people that are running that. And there is, somebody just put it there, Pete just put in the link to the Facebook page, and great to hear that Lake Rescue Association would like to be involved in that. I'm sure that would be welcomed.
And Todd is here with us this evening, Kelly.
Oh,
in person. Other questions for Ben?
Hi, I'm Richard Ruggiano. We live on Lake Amherst, my wife Kathy and I. We actually were one of the lake monitor people before Irene, so we used to test the water and clarity and all of that. But Ben, my questions go to you because you've rated the dam poor and significant. Is that the dam in its totality, or is that just the Spillway that you can open and close? And the reason why I ask that question is, when you say that it could release water, are you talking about releasing water at the Spillway or in the breach in the entire dam?
So the significant hazard classification and the poor hazard rating are of the dam in its totality. When you rate dams for condition, essentially it's the lowest ranking element of the dam that dictates the condition rating. So therefore the dam in its entirety is considered to be in poor condition. But the I guess greatest risk factors that we see are taking place over by the gate, the dividing wall between the gate and the right abutment wall area.
So if that's the case, then the poor and significant is the Spillway. And if that was to go, would there be a tidal wave that's going to be released and go through the lakes?
Well, it probably wouldn't be a tidal wave, but it depends. It depends on a bunch of internal, external factors on how the dam actually were to fail. Yeah, certainly if you're going to have a failure, the best case scenario would be a partial gate failure where the wall moves and the gate, spins sideways and gets jammed and the pond slowly drains. And so that's fairly, although it would still be an emergency, it would be a moderate amount of flow coming that's fairly controllable, and it would be a fairly slow drain and a fairly slow rise downstream, to a more severe case. I mean, you got to consider failures under all different loading conditions. So you have another loading condition, we have a flood event, and your gate fails, and the wall is impacted and it takes the abutment wall with it, and now you have a fairly sizable failure. So there's a ranges of how this could potentially fail, and like I said, it's dependent on the loading condition at the time of failure. None of us really have crystal balls to know when that loading condition is going to come. It's really an assessment of the conditions that we see, the physical conditions we see at the dam, and the potential weaknesses we see at the dam that dictates these ratings.
Okay,
And potential vulnerabilities.
Ben, my last question is regarding the pictures you've taken over the years, not you personally, but the state has taken.
Okay.
So the prior owner of this dam had the responsibility to take care of the dam under care, custody, and control. So over these years, nothing was ever done. And my concern there is didn't the state have some responsibility here to ensure that that dam was kept in good order? And so we have all of these years and all of your pictures from all of the years that show nothing was ever done. Was there ever a reserve established by the prior owner for fixing the dam? And if it is, where is it? And I guess finally, do we know who originally constructed the dam, and are they available to possibly do work on the dam?
Okay, so let me try here. So the state dam safety program, you're correct, performs visual inspections. Our state statute that we operate under is Chapter 10 VSA, Chapter 43 dams. It was recently updated in 2018. Prior to that update in 2018, we had pretty limited regulatory authorities. We had the authority to inspect a dam. We had the authority to make recommendations to dam owners. We only really had the authority to take action in the worst of the worst, nearly to unsafe to nearly unsafe conditions. We did not have the authority to require dam owners to do operations and maintenance level activities. So kind of what happened, this isn't the only dam where this occurred, but over the years, the dam safety program went out, did inspections, made recommendations. In some cases, dam owners took those recommendations to heart and made improvements. And in some cases, they just ignored it. And unfortunately, we did not have the statutory authority to go after the people that ignored us. And so unfortunately, it has led to, and this isn't the only dam in the state that has this situation, but fortunately it led to the condition that we're in here. I believe the current dam was constructed by Central Vermont Power in the 50s. My guess would be when they sold the dam to the private entity, that they essentially sold all their rights to it. So essentially they passed that risk, liability, and responsibility onto the next owner, and so on. Am I missing a question in there? I may be missing one of your questions.
Well, Ben, my question was more or less if that dam construction company, and I don't mean that as an adjective there, but the dam construction company, if they were still around, we could maybe approach them and ask them to do some work on it. The other thing was the reserve. Was there ever any reserve established? I mean, is there anything from the state to the prior owner telling them they have to do something or put some monies aside to do something?
Yeah, I do not know. I do not know what the private owner's financial situation was, if they ever did such a thing or not. I do not know. We have records of inspection reports with recommendations was basically our way of communicating with them, and unfortunately they didn't take the recommendations up at a time when these fixes would have been a little simpler and a little cheaper, and the conditions continue to deteriorate.
I have a question.
Yes. Barbara Silver?
Yeah, hi. Barb Silver, Lake Rescue Association. It's really sort of a follow-on question to what was just discussed. It's kind of a general question. I'm confused because it's my understanding that the state of Vermont manages and owns, if you will, or controls all the water bodies in the state. They have jurisdiction over Lake Rescue and I believe Echo and Amherst as well. And if the state takes responsibility for the lakes and the water bodies, why can't the state contribute to the management of those water bodies by offering funding to the dams or any other structures that are going to impact those water bodies? It just seems a little contradictory to me.
Understood. Unfortunately, the way it's set up is that dam owners are responsible for their dams, and I think Lake Rescue, and I believe the next one down there is owned by the town of Ludlow, so it's the town of Ludlow who's responsible for performing maintenance and repairs and things like that on those dams. So it ultimately falls to the dam owner to make those improvements. The state does own dams, and the state owns over 100 dams. Actually, the state's one of the biggest dam owners in the state. And we're responsible on the ones that we own, but we're not responsible. It's ultimately the owner that's responsible on the dams that they own.
Doesn't quite make sense to me. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure, Craig?
Yes, Craig Obrusky. So would it be possible to get state grants if the town of Plymouth owned the dam?
Again, if it's a repair or rehabilitation, there's no available programs at the state level anyways. If removal were, if the removal option was pursued, there may be funding available. The owner of the dam, the owner type of the dam doesn't really change that rule. It's essentially the activity that's being done that drives that rule.
Has there been an engineering study on what it would cost to remediate the problems?
My understanding that is a feasibility study is getting underway right now to do just that.
Tim Sink, do you still have your hand up?
Yeah, well, I guess I have an observation. It just seems to me like the biggest thing that's happening here is that the idea really is to take the dam out. That seems like that's really the bottom line idea here, is you want the dams to go away. I mean, it just seems like that to me. It seems like that's where this is going, is that you want the dams to go away. And I think we ought to be clear about that, because at least we might as well know where this stands. But that seems like that's the most viable option that's being presented. Because every other way to look at fixing it involves, the owners of that property spending a lot of money on something they inherited. Isn't that just sort of where you're going, is you just want to take these dams out and get that out of there?
Again, no, from a regulatory standpoint, we just want a safe structure. So whether that's repair, rehabilitation, or removal, we recognize that there is no funding. There are advantages to removal that unfortunately you don't get with rehabilitation or repair. But at the end of the day, any of those are viable, permittable solutions. And if a viable repair or rehabilitation design was presented, it could be approved and be being constructed if the funding could be raised or become available.
So I think, Tim, one thing I'll say in response, this is Jay Coleman. I'm actually in the middle of a dam removal process for my employer. And those funds, although being administered by the state, are Clean Water Initiative Program funds that are federal government money. Do I have that correct then? So that's not, there's a federal objective with this removal money, and the state's simply the administrator of it. Is that correct?
I think that's generally correct.
Yeah.
There's an environmental imperative in removing the dam, whereby they make the feds will make the money available. It's kind of what that guy's just saying. There's more inclination to remove it for environmental reasons. Not this one, any in general.
We have a question in the chat that said, would the Army Corps of Engineers buy the dam rights? And that, I'm sorry, who was that made the question? Tom Winchell. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Tom Wetzel. Just curious. I know they want to get as much access to water rights as they can. I don't know if there'd be any benefit to them for this, but would the federal government maybe step in? And someone also told me also the north side of that lake where it's really low was a federal bird sanctuary. So I wonder if what impact that has on if we drain the lake any further to that federal statute.
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I'm not aware of a program where the Army Corps of Engineers are buying dams and taking up dams. They have a pretty robust inventory across the country. But I'm not familiar with any such programs where the federal government taking over small dams.
Hey, Ben, I have a quick question. My name is John Grossberg. I live on Lake Amherst. I'm kind of curious as to why the state is willing to offer the funding to remove the dam, but if to rehabilitate the dam, if those funds rivaled that same amount of money, why wouldn't they put that toward that? Because it does seem like there's an impetus to remove this dam. I have to be honest. That's the feeling I'm getting.
I mean, I guess that's true across the board. There right now there's environmental funding for dam removals, and there's not similar funding for dam rehabilitation. Again, the funds that are available for dam removal have nothing to do with my program, nothing to do with dam safety. They're either tied to water quality or ecological benefit or other potential environmental benefits of the activity of removal.
So beyond the condition of the dam, are there any reasons why the state wants to see this dam gone? Are there environmental reasons? Because something doesn't seem right here.
I mean, again, I have my only goal is to see a safe dam or safe structure or safe condition. So whether that be however that be done is through permittable through our program, it's a permittable solution. I can't speak to the other environmental programs at the state, but that's how dam safety views it. Again, rehabilitation is a permittable activity, and the unfortunate thing about it is that there is the cost to do that work. It's typically higher than a removal, and there's no assistance available. And then you do also the owner does have the ongoing ongoing costs of dam ownership, inspection, maintenance, operation, repair in the future, emergency action planning, etc. So there's again, but sorry.
I'm sorry, no, thank you. In the unfortunate event that the Amherst Lake Dam is removed, has there been any thought as to where the new shoreline will occur? Will there be depth surveys to determine the new shoreline locations? And then in addition, will the state aid in site restoration as they did in the Norwich Dam removal project? Because I'm certain that would cost a lot of money. And as to the aesthetics of this driving up scenic Route 100, I can't imagine that people are going to be oohing and eyeing at this, what's left over when you drain 8 feet out of Lake Amherst. I mean, it's just going to be an absolute.
No, I understand. I understand where you're coming from.
The money that would have to be put in. I mean, would the state jump in now and do site restoration as they did in post Norwich Dam?
Again, I think too early in the process to really know. I mean, the alternatives need to be vetted out further, all the impacts better understood, and then kind of run to ground. I can't necessarily get into the specifics of what of those things. We just don't know yet, I don't think.
I need someone to help me understand. My name is Jamie Miro. My wife and I own property on Campground Road. We're talking about a lake that has been there for a long time. We're talking about a lake that is seen as a tourism destination, the 3 lakes there, Amherst, Echo, and Rescue. It's on maps and all sorts of things in history. Why would we even consider for a moment that this could disappear? How is the state legislature not alarmed by this very idea that this lake and this dam could be injured, that you're dealing with wildlife, tourism revenue, all sorts of things? I don't even understand how this is even a consideration. It shocks me that Vermont, which is supposed to be this green state, this environmental state, and this is even an option. It seems absolutely ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I don't really think that's a question for Ben. I mean,
Well, someone then needs to take the
Yes.
lead and get a hold of the state legislator and say, get your ass in gear. This is what you voted in for.
Let's
take
speak
care of the problem.
respectively, Mr. Stewart, or we're going to have to mute you. Thank you.
We have two state reps on, we have a state senator and a state rep on the call. Why don't we hear from them?
Yeah, this is Charlie Kimball. So I'm the state rep representing Woodstock, Reading, and Plymouth. And I'm here to learn as to from what the proposal is or what the condition of the dam is. I've spoken to a couple of folks about what would be the impact on the flora and fauna of the area. What would it look like if the dam was remained at this level? What would it be if the dam was removed? I haven't actually asked that question. I was just thinking it would stay at the current level unless it was funded to repair it with the cooperation of the property owners. So really, I'm here to listen and find out what there is. I mean, there's a regulatory body, which is who Ben works for, and the legislative body, which provides financing and writes statute. So really, this is trying to understand what the existing situation is with it. So I don't have a solution. I'm just trying to learn as much as you are.
So I'm Alice Nitka. I'm here listening as well. I've only recently found out about this situation. And you know, it's certainly been historical that private dam owners are responsible for dams. That seems like everything I've known forever. However, I'd like to look at what might have happened with some other dams around the state in which the state did get involved. And I don't know exactly what they did, so I'd have to look at that. I'm thinking of Lake Fairley and what happened there. I'm not sure. Maybe someone working for the state knows about that one. But I certainly, you know, I mean, one thing would be I hate to say this, but if the private owners can't do anything and they can't get any money, and it gets to be high risk, well, the state would pull the plug. But hopefully something could happen before it gets to that point. I mean, it's not at that stage right now. So I think there are a lot of things that need to be looked at. And, you know, this is all new and we need to figure it out. I agree. It would be devastating to have the lake go out. So it's not where it is right now, but I think you need to get this study done to see what's going on, see how bad things are, so that we know more and can go forward. So that's it for now.
Hi, Ben, John Grossberg. I have one more question. Can you cite any success stories of a privately owned dam that might help us to navigate through this issue?
Sure. A few come to mind. Somewhat similar situations. Let me think. There was a dam that was actually owned by the Girl Scouts of America up in Richmond, Vermont. The dam was failing. They proposed removal. The local land trust actually stepped in and purchased the dam. Basically, a nonprofit organization came in and purchased the dam and has through fundraising, did a full-on feasibility study and a design for a complete replacement of the dam. And actually, right now that project's been permitted, and I think they're trying to complete the fundraising for the construction on that. You mentioned Lake Fairley was mentioned a little earlier. I believe that dam was privately owned, and that dam, not unlike this one, had summer camps and other valuable recreation properties on it. And in that case, there's actually 3 towns that bordered the lake. So the 3 towns came together and formed a tri-town commission and took ownership of the dam, and similarly fundraised and implemented a new, built a replacement dam, and that project's been done for a couple of years now. There's other examples of, I guess, lake associations that are trying to form, not unlike the case that you guys speak of here. They're trying to take ownership of get ownership of the dam and raise money and rehabilitate the project. So it has been done other places. It is can be challenging. I think Star Lake's another example over in Mount Holly. I know there was a Friends of Star Lake for a while that helped with a lot of the fundraising over there, and I think ultimately the town took it over once the project was complete. So there are some examples of there are some examples of I guess dams that were privately owned that ultimately another entity came in, fundraised, got the dam, and then got the repairs figured out, or in the process of getting the dam's repairs figured out, and moved on from there.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Hi.
please.
Hi, my name is Alicia Armstrong. I live at the north end of Lake Amherst. I am currently having some community meetings about the lake. I've created a Facebook page. This morning, we got a website launched. We have an email dedicated to this. I have interviewed Pauline Bloom, who is heading up First Pond. I spoke with James Sargent, who's with Eden Pond. So I've talked to a couple people that have been through this. I'm still catching up with all the others. I just want to assure people that we are really trying to move forward and try to form a nonprofit, to do some fundraising, and hopefully take over this dam so that we can save Lake Amherst. And Ben, I just need to know, when the feasibility study is finished, how much time do we have?
How much time do you have before?
We're gonna wait for the feasibility study to be done, so we know what the options are. We're putting in place, as I said, we're trying to set, we're trying to set up all our, our foundation here so that we can move quickly, but I don't know how quickly we're going to need to move.
I mean, given the current condition of the dam and particularly if there's no severe loading conditions and the condition of the dam can kind of hopefully stabilize a little bit with the reduced loading, hopefully it buys some time. Of course, the ongoing monitoring of the dam needs to happen, but I would suspect it would, I would suspect it would take several years to pull everything together. Just from the standpoint of finding solutions and fundraising and permitting and building them. But again, as long as the dam remains, doesn't continue to worsen and it's being monitored regularly and doesn't degrade or take a big step for the worse, I think the water can stay well level can stay where it is.
And what, with the examples that you shared with us, what was the timeline of those for the Girl Scouts, for the timeline that you're sharing, that there was something private, an entity was formed, they bought the dam, they repaired the dam. What were those timelines?
I would say a couple of years. It takes some time. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. In the 2 to 3 to 4 year range, something like that.
Would you be able to share that precedent with this group?
Share the
because I would imagine there's valuable resources in that.
I have shared some of those contacts with Alicia that she mentioned there. Shared some of that information with her, and so I have done that to some. I've provided some of that information that she asked for.
There's a lot of information going through the chat now too. If you're watching that. Looks like Pete Fellows is posting some resources.
Hey, I have a question for the gentleman that's the head of the Lake Rescue Dam Association. Curious, who owns that dam? Who built that dam? And I guess more importantly, with all these 501c3s, who's ultimately liable? I guess that group takes over the responsibility. How did it work with Redbridge?
The Lake Rescue Dam is owned by the town of Ludlow. And, we go through the same inspection process, Ben's organization inspects that. I don't know what the current rating is on the Lake Rescue Dam, but on Redbridge Road, but the town of Ludlow looks at it from time to time, and we're concerned about the health of that dam over time as well. We've talked to our select board in Ludlow about it. I think it's on their long-term screen. They haven't, done anything. And that's the Lake Rescue Association is, 501c3. We don't own anything on the lake, but we are we look out for the environment and we work on things like milfoil and sedimentation. And sedimentation is a big problem for us because the channel between Round Pond and Lake Rescue is filling up, and we're going to have to dredge it for the second time in 10 years coming up in the next year or so.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, because I guess at the end of the day, if the private family is still the liable folks responsible for this, put whatever group you want to together. If I own that property, I'm not taking on any additional risk or liability. I mean, ultimately, that dam's got to get into either town of Plymouth's hands, the state's hands, or the federal government's hands in terms of the rights.
Todd, did you want to share?
Hey, Ben, I have one more question. John Grossberg again. Can you tell me, like, based on, I mean, I know that this dam's been in, what I understand, ranked in poor condition since 2005. Can you tell us what the velocity of degradation is? How fast is this dam degrading? I mean, if it's been in poor condition for the last 17 years, what has been the rate of degradation or the velocity in the past few years?
That's what we were trying to show in those photographs in my presentation, is that, every 3 to 5 years when the site was visited, there was marked changes and, further deterioration easily observable. So that's pretty rapid. It's not uncommon for a dam in better condition to, visit it in that time frame, and there's little, if any, real changes discernible. So the rate has quickened, and again, hopefully the load reduction of having the water level down will reduce the load on it and slow that deterioration, so that it can buy time to figure out solutions.
Thank you.
Ben, I have one other question. Is there stopgap measures that can be done to mitigate against the degradation of dams, sandbagging, shoring, those kind of things? That could be a temporary mitigation while the study's being done on what else to be done, just to make sure that there's not some sort of catastrophe.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the most important thing that can be done is regular and diligent monitoring, and comparison of photographs and observations at pretty frequent intervals. And if continued degradation is observed, then yeah, there's probably there perhaps could be some kind of stopgap measures, as you mentioned, that could benefit. Hopefully again, if the load reduction, and we don't see an increased loading condition, hopefully we've slowed the load reduction does slow that deterioration. So I guess I'd say yes, pending additional monitoring. If additional monitoring shows continued deterioration is continuing at the rate and we didn't slow it down. Again, I guess we'd have to kind of see what those observations are and kind of see what's going on to kind of figure out what appropriate measures would be. But a couple come to mind. But again, I guess I would want to kind of get a better sense for what's happening if we haven't slowed it.
I do think I know that we're all focused on this particular dam, but I do think there's a bigger issue that it seems really terrible policy to have dams privately owned. Do we have a sense of how many dams are owned privately across, or is this an anomaly?
So actually the biggest ownership type in the Vermont and the country are privately owned dams. More dams are privately owned than any other type of ownership. So it's not uncommon. What's kind of uncommon here, though, is quite often privately owned dams are located on, a one single parcel. So one person owns the dam. They also have control of all the land around the lake or along the pond. It's usually typically a smaller structure. It's a little bit, I won't say it's unheard of, but it's a little bit unusual that you have a privately owned dam with public uses upstream. This one's a little bit of an anomaly in that regard, but unfortunately, privately owned dams are very common.
Crazy.
Ben, Richard Ruggiano again. I have a follow-up question. When we keep talking about this feasibility study, and I'm just wondering, in this feasibility study, we seem to talk more downstream, echo, rescue, everybody else. What I'm wondering is, in the feasibility study, are we also looking at the impact on a reduced Lake Amherst, reduced water flow, wildlife, fish, tourism, and a long-term impact is going to be the evaluations on homes and properties along the lakes that no longer have waterfront property. And that eventually trickles down to the towns along the way and their revenue sources. So while we look at this feasibility study, are we just gonna say the dam is gonna cost X to repair, it's gonna be Y to remove it? Or are we gonna say, well, if we do remove it, this is what happens to the whole chain of lakes and the economy in this whole area? Because that's a much longer, bigger picture. And I tend to think that these feasibility studies like to be narrow in their scope, but it shouldn't be.
I can't speak to the details of the feasibility study on that regard, but I believe, that those are things that do need to be studied in order to understand the full impact of any of the measures. What are the impacts upstream and downstream, to all those considerations.
Mr. Sink had his hand up.
Yeah, Ben, one thing I wondered about is we've talked a lot about the fact that the burden of repairing the dam would be on the people that own that property now. And we've talked about some different alternatives. So in the event that that dam had to be taken out, two things. One, is that a decision the state would make and order them to take the dam out? And would the state pay to take that dam out? Or so is the state going to assume responsibility for taking that dam out? Or make them pay for it?
No. So again, the state the dam safety program wouldn't dictate which, again, assuming that they're present active owners who are perhaps stuck but not absent, we would work with, the owner would be worked with. But if it turned out that there was no financial means to do anything and this condition to continue to go down and there was no other solution, then a risk reduction measure the easiest one would be to do some sort of a gate opening and potentially a partial removal. Again, that's a regulatory action that would kind of signal a complete failure, I guess, of the ability to find any other alternatives. Again, if other alternatives would be considered if they could be presented and developed. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. Did you have a second part of that question? I
think I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, my question was, if you were you guys are in a position to tell them to take that dam out, right? If you thought it was if it was getting worse, you're in a position to tell them they have to that dam has to go.
I guess if we had to, I hope we don't get there. Again.
But see, then the point being, if they were told the dam had to go, would the state assume the cost, or would that be something they had to pay for?
I guess ultimately it would be unsafe. We'd use a part of our statute called the unsafe dam proceedings. We would go in and do the activity, and I likely back bill the owner to have it to pay for the action. It's frankly, I don't think it's ever been done in the state of Vermont.
There's always a first.
So it'd be a bit of a first. That would be again, that's sort of more of an absent owner, absent community sort of a situation. Not necessarily it seems like what we have here.
Sure.
Again, it seems like, in terms of the alternatives, either the existing owner can somehow obtains the funds to rehabilitate the dam, the ownership changes to a different entity that has the funds to rehabilitate the dam. I guess ultimately it is unfortunately the funds that are sort of the limiting factor on that option. But again, if those details can be figured out, and that's not really a regulatory decision, that's a dam owner and community decision as to which way the problem's handled. If a new entity takes ownership of the dam and fundraises and comes up with the money to do the engineering work and the design and construction, that I said that's been done before, and that's an alternative. Although there's challenges to doing that, undoubtedly.
Do we know do we have any ballpark figure? Has that come to light? Do we know what the Girl Scout camp spent on that dam, or that's this feasibility study?
So I think the feasibility study is going to explore that. I guess the girl you mentioned, the Girl Scout dam. I believe that project was I'm gonna kind of shoot from the hip a little bit here, but as I remember, I believe that was around a $50,000 design work. And then I think about the construction cost on that was, I think they're still trying to fundraise for it, but I think they're trying to fundraise about 600,000 for that. And that's, I guess, not a totally dissimilar project, but I guess that gives you, but you know, there's differences. So it's not always like it's not a one-to-one type scenario. I'm just trying to give you a range of a similar project.
Right. Ballpark.
Yes, please.
Hi, it's Alicia Armstrong again. I just want to let everybody know that Ben did forward similar projects to me. And I do have a list of people that I'm going to be contacting, all of them. Like I said, I was able to reach Colleen Bloom last week and James Sargent, but the Fairleigh project, the Star Lake, this Girl Scout project are all people that I am going to be reaching out to. And I am posting what they tell me on our Facebook page. It will soon probably be on our website as soon as our website kind of gets up and running. It just got launched this morning. And again, if anybody wants to tune in, it's amherstlake.org is the website. And the Facebook page is called Amherst Lake Friends. And we also have a listserv started too for emails. So if people can sign up through the website to get on the listserv. And I'll be keeping people updated as I find out more information about these other projects.
Todd, did you have some things you wanted to share?
Been writing a lot.
For the people in the room, I've been vaccinated, but I'll still keep the distance. For the people out on the, sorry, I'm losing my hearing aid. Out in the audience, we've got about 50, a little less than 50 people here. My name is Todd Manise. I work in the Vermont Rivers program, and I live in town, but not in this part of the community. We're on the other side. So I've got 3 pages of notes here. I've been trying to keep in track of similar type issues to discuss. I've been working with dam safety on dams for 5 years. I've done a lot of been involved with a lot of dam removals. This is the discovery phase. We're all trying to figure this out. And it takes patience because these are very complex, very complicated. They're very contentious. Takes a lot of patience, focus, effort, and please bear with us. So I've been involved with the water drawdown, and people have been using the term drain the lake. We are lowering the water. We have in the last 2 weeks, whatever is done, the water level will be lowered. If it's a repair or replacement, the water level will be restored. If it's a complete dam removal, then we're not draining the lake. Amherst is 90 feet deep at the deepest and 61 feet deep. If we dropped it, let's say 2 feet from what people are accustomed to, back in the 50s when it was first built for Central Vermont Public, what became CVPS, now to Green Mountain Power, there were 4 flashboards, so the water level was higher. And then there was 3, 2, and it's been fluctuating. That in and of itself, the water level fluctuating causes environmental effects, some of them adverse. There's been involved in this project in the last month and a half, maybe, our lakes and ponds section, dam safety, rivers, wetlands, the basin planners, legal teams, management. I'm probably missing something. Fish and wildlife. Fish and wildlife, thank you. The reason why we did this in such a rush is because the smallmouth bass spawning season starts May 15th. So we wanted to get the water level down so that the eggs didn't get dried out. So again, very convoluted projects. And the feasibility study is to look at the options. What are the opinion of probable cost of those options? When you see that report, you'll see a 25% contingency. And some of you are going to go, what is that? Well, that's covering all the unknowns that we still don't know. The funding that was available, that Two Rivers, and thank you to them for getting that. The O'Laughlins are going to put in some money. Probably going to be like a third of what a full-blown study would be. And engineering feasibility analysis. But there are things that aren't going to be done because the money's not there, and we don't need to do those things now, like a full topographic survey. Geotechnical borings, the hydrology and hydraulics. You'll hear H&H reports, hydrology, how it falls out of the sky, hydraulics, how it moves across the landscape. And you're going to see a lot of number output from that. Don't worry about it. I don't look at those numbers. I look at the bottom line. What's the reduction in flooding? I was with a lot of people on Scott Terrace on Echo Lake, after Irene. So I know personally those homes. I've been there. I don't want to see them flooded again. I don't think any of you do. When we had these internal meetings with all the different programs, everybody agreed at the outset, public safety trumps the environment. Now, we still have to do the best that we can to minimize those impacts, balance all the different conflicting goals and objectives, because there's a lot of them. I fished that lake, and I pulled a lake trout out of that deep 90-foot hole. I know what you folks are concerned about. I'm going to start in looking at clarify water surface. It's not draining the lake. It's lowering the water surface and managing that.
How much are you talking about?
I'm sorry.
You said lowering the water surface. By how much?
Okay. So at this time, it's been lowered 2. It might be another 4, another 6. That's part of the feasibility study, is to get dimensions of the dam, length, width, height, etc. So on that order of magnitude. That's all I can tell you right now. I don't know. Nobody knows. There are not.
But that's a worst case scenario, right? We're not going to cross that bridge yet.
Okay, somewhere in that range is the worst case scenario. And frankly, folks, nobody knows what the outcome of this is going to be. Removal, repair, replacement. There's too many variables for this. So that's why I say patience. You got to be patient with this. There was a comment about waters of the state. If you've heard of the waters of the United States, the waters of the state of Vermont, we are all collectively responsible for those waters. The clarity, the cleanness. I don't want that impacted adversely. Removal is not a conclusion. There was that came up. We don't know. There was a concern for planting. Now, the native seed stock that's at the bottom of the lake, in a low oxygen environment, when the water levels go down, the oxygen gets in, they germinate, and they sprout. I've seen this many, many times. And it's really fast. It's like 2 weeks. If you look standing on the ground, little sprouts coming up. And then in another 2 weeks, you can see it from the road. By the end of the summer, it's up, depending on what the vegetation type is, it's up high. Generally, there are plantings done the following year. What is native that's going to pop up? You don't want to go spending all kinds of money that you don't need to spend, because it's going to regenerate naturally. What's the impact to flora and fauna? So, good question. We're still in discovery phase. That kind of question is not going to be answered. It's not going to be asked or answered in the engineering feasibility study. That's a environmental type study. And time frame. So this has happened really fast. Now, Alicia, thank you very much for you and John Armstrong having meetings at your home. I've been to 2 of those, and they've been very productive. And then, again, the last one that I've summarized this, again, I've got 3 pages of notes here, was cost and what's the range of costs. And at this point, anybody says any number and they're wrong. I don't tell people numbers because I can't throw something out of my back pocket and it means anything. So I'm going to put my mask back on, sit back down. Thank you very much. And
may I interject with a question real quick?
Now you're gonna answer the questions.
I'm sorry?
Now you're gonna have to answer the questions.
What question?
Sorry, I just have a question on, so I heard that you said basically the lake will recede about 2 feet, right? My question is, when you remove a dam and the current of a water or flowing piece of water, body of water increases, the geographical structure of the body of water is likely to change. So for people that are on cutouts of the lake or in different areas of the water where it normally flows, the water level or their shoreline will recede further than others, is what my imagination would be. I'm no expert on the topic, which is why I asked this question. But for others that have different landings on the lake, I'd assume that their water level would decrease further than 2 feet. Would that be a fair assumption?
I understood the question, sir. May I ask your name?
Yeah, Ryan Ruggiano.
Oh, okay. Yes, there will be, depending on the depth, if everybody can picture the big rock over near the dam that people sit on and jump into the lake. That's the part that's 90 feet deep. On the Route 100 side, the embankment is very steep going down to the water. On the south end where the dam is, it's shallower. On the north end, really shallow. And there's variable depths on the east side. So when that water, now it's high because of the rain we had, as the water recedes, stabilizes, it's going to fluctuate with different storm events. There will be a changing shoreline. And the answer for you folks that are on the lake is, when we've had a week of no rain or whatever, go outside and look at what's going on at your particular lake shoreline. I can't answer that question other than it's going to be variable depending on location.
Right. So it's going to be different from where your location is. That's more the answer I just wanted to understand. Because for us, I think our shoreline has already receded further than 2 feet. So, you know, it's a question of how far is it going to go? And for those on the call, who's going to be impacted more than others?
All right. I'm going to use my notepad here. This is the Amherst Lake. The water surface elevation was up here. And when it drops down, depending on how steep we do this, steeper on this side, less steep on this side. When it goes down, it's going to recede more where it's shallower and less where it's steeper. And because I don't know where you live, you're going to need to assess this yourself, because, you know, if you have a tape measure, you can tape measure it if you want. And it's a good question. I don't have enough information to answer it other than what I've just explained to you so far. I don't know if that helps.
That's very helpful. I appreciate you answering the question.
Yeah, Ms. Armstrong?
Todd, I think I need to just do a correction, and I think Carl Roller here will agree with me that it's not 90 feet at the rock, it's 60 feet deep there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then up further where the ledges come down, that's 90 feet.
Okay.
Okay, that's the deepest part right there,
Yeah.
just so you know, just for everybody's reference. And I do have a I have a map that I drew out that I will hopefully be able to redraw and put on, post it so that people can see the depths of the lake.
Yeah, there, if you're familiar with USGS topographic maps for hunting, they show the mountains and the valleys and surface, subsurface below a lake or pond. That's called bathymetry, bathymetry, bathymetry. I think it was I misspelled that. So Alicia's talking about a bathymetric map, and
Todd, this is Pete on the Zoom. You can't see the chat. I've posted an approximate bathymetry map in the chat, links for people to look at, as well as all of Ben's links and everything else. So it's in there.
Thanks, Pete. So, folks, there's in the contract that probably going to be signed sometime this week for the engineering study. I met with the engineer last week with Bill Laughlin's. We discussed what are the different pieces in that scope of work. And one of the things you'll be happy to hear is taking an inventory of everybody's docks, physically locating them with a GPS unit, taking pictures, who owns what dock, where, and taking some depth measurements with a fish finder or sounding, and he's got a GPS unit hooked on that. We're not going to do the whole lake because that's beyond the scope of this, but where are spot elevations like at the boat ramp and the Hawk Marina and where the dam is now, because we can't see too far out in the lake to verify what the bathymetry is. And again, it's not going to include any environmental pieces. It's not going to include an H&H study, but those things can be done in the future. It's not appropriate at this level of discovery phase to try and get into that granular level of fine detail.
Yes, I have a question and also a statement. At what point, Craig Obrisky, so I'm just curious, at what point does the feasibility study correlate with the end goal of the community, as far as I can see, to rebuild the dam, to keep our natural resources, because the cost of what I'm seeing is the cost of cleanup, we'll say, to relocate the ramp, the access ramp. I don't know if anybody's been down there. It's probably 500 or 600 feet from where it is now. It would have to be relocated. I'm assuming that's a state responsibility. So at what point does dollars and cents really come in after the feasibility study? When are people really going to look at what's important?
So first, for clarity, which access ramp are you talking about that's 150 feet?
Exactly.
The boat launch. It'd be more like about 400 or 500 feet from there to get to the water.
Okay.
Are you saying it's only going to be 150 feet further from where it is?
All right. So I have been there. Now, when we did the risk reduction measures, I had 10 locations to check water levels at the boat ramp, taking pictures, visual documentation, all the way down to Lake Pauline. I put a little magic marker in there. Those levels were 14. It went down to 20. It went up to 4 last Saturday morning after Friday's rain. So using that just as an indication of over time, the water surface fluctuating like it does everywhere. I've got photo documentation at the dam above it on the shoreline, 2 locations, the gate and the dam crest.
both sides on the downstream side, some markers, the pictures of the Black River as it goes down to Echo Lake. Again, as I mentioned with Pauline. So it's something that we have been keeping track of. And then last Friday, I think it was, when I left, somebody had back there, somebody was out on a boat, 2 adult men and a teenager. And when I got back to check the boat ramp, because my sequence that day was the last thing I did, they were pulling the trailer was in the water. They steered the boat, put it on the trailer, pulled it up. And when they got it out they got the trailer out of the water, I said, hang on a minute, let me measure. From my foot to the water line on the boat was 2.5 feet. So a boat with a small boat with a shallow draft can use that. A larger boat, like with a full keel or heavy boat with a deep draft, isn't going to be able to use that. And the folks so it's Fish and Wildlife that owns the boat access ramp, and we have been in contact with them starting last year when I first got involved in the project. And they're concerned about it too. And there are, in our state government team, there are people that want this lake to stay. There are people that are, well, if it has to go, it has to go. So it's very, very complex. There's just so many moving parts. I hope I can help this process as we go forward.
I just like to say, Mrs. O'Loughlin, I can only imagine how difficult it is to find yourself in a position like this, how challenging these conversations are, and you're holding it with a lot of grace.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question for Ben? Ben, I joined the call a little late and I apologize if some of this is repetitive, but did I overhear that this is somewhat unprecedented for a dam of this sort to be owned privately?
I wouldn't say it's unprecedented. It's a little bit it's a little bit abnormal that a privately owned dam that supports public use is a little abnormal. Many of the privately owned dams are located on one property where the owner has control of the entirety of the pond. But there are cases like this, but like I said, it's less common.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just encourage, Alice, Charlie, for those of you representing, the state and the town to take that into consideration. This is something that is, from that, I would say for our situation, unprecedented. And I think that's something that if you could bring up in your meetings, I think this is something that, possibly could be taken responsibility by the town. And it seems like most cases in our situation is owned by the town. I would just implore you to do that. Thank you.
Todd, did you mention a schedule? You mentioned the word schedule, but I didn't hear any time frame. How long will this study take? When we could expect to see the results? Of the study? Is it a 6-month project or a year project? Or?
It's expected to be 2 to 3 months.
Okay, thank you.
I'm also curious, if the question does come before the town to assist or take some action, as I'm wondering if, the group has thought about anything they might offer to the voters or taxpayers of the town in terms of recreational opportunities. And that might be something for the homeowners to consider. Or...
I'm sorry, I was taking notes. Was that directed to me?
Oh, no, just generally.
Okay.
I think it was more to Alicia.
Well, can you rephrase your question? I'm not.
Yeah,
really...
I'm vaccinated as well, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking if, the group that's working on the project decided to approach the town about taking on some or part of this project. I'm just curious if consideration has been given to what, is there anything to benefit residents of the town or taxpayers in terms of recreational opportunities?
Well, I mean, what we're looking.
Aren't those pretty obvious?
Well, yes and no.
I mean, I think everything's open.
I don't know if there's a beach,
Talk to
that's accessible for town people.
Which scenario would you be talking about? Dam removal or dam repair?
Or just maybe dam repair or whatever,
Okay.
If you're seeking like municipal assistance in some way.
Okay, like I said, I spoke with Colleen Bloom, who is Curtis Pond, I believe. And right now they are in a position where they are asking the town to take ownership of the dam with the agreement that they will fundraise and help pay for it, because their dam could then be insured by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Yeah.
And insurance, I guess, in their particular situation, insurance was a thing that they couldn't get. However, South Pond did get insurance by Lloyd's of London, who then they put it in a nonprofit, and then Lloyd's of London insures the officers of the nonprofit. So we've got two similar ponds and two different outcomes. So that's why I'm really curious to find out how these other ones that Ben sent me, what they're doing. And then, like I said, when we know what we're looking at after the feasibility study is finished, then I think we can rally. Right now, people are really holding back. I'm not getting a lot of commitment from the group. I mean, there's a lot of people listening. There's a lot of people I think I keep hearing over and over again the same questions as people need to understand why we're in this situation. And I guess what I want to say is we are in this situation right now. All the shoulda, woulda, couldas are gone. The dam is where it is now. We really need to rally. We really need to work together so that we can move forward. I mean, we can't be stuck in blaming. We can't be stuck in like, why didn't you, or why didn't it, or, who should do this and who should do that. I grew up on Lake Amherst. The land has been in my family since the 1700s. I don't want to see that lake go. It's always, in all the photographs that I've seen, Lake Amherst was there as it is now. It's a little bit lower. I mean, it's even lower now, but with the flashboards that used to be 4, I remember being able to swim like up to my neck, and now it's just been up to my waist. But my heart is in it. I'm very motivated to save the lake. So I'm hoping that those around me will join us, the few of us that really want this, and we can make it happen.
Jay, just to follow up on yours, because if I flip your question, not because of you saying it, but just to flip your question, the loss of the lake would affect everybody in Plymouth, more so than any other town. So, I mean, people of Plymouth, you will benefit from it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, strategy wise, you're gonna have to convince the voters, right? I mean, so that's kind of why I kind of put that out there.
No, I appreciate it, but.
Well, you think it's a bigger issue than that though? I mean, bigger than the town?
Yes. It could be. If we go to the town for help, I mean, that involves taxpayers.
I'm sure it does. I mean, I sit here, I'm listening to this. I mean, I agree. You grew up here in Vermont. I'm not a native Vermonter, but I've been exposed to Vermont politics for quite a long time. I mean, the overall thematic of this issue, I think it's a prime illustration of the bastardization of the relationship between the state and the towns. Because for like the past 20 some odd years in Vermont, the motivation behind the legislature has been to, divest the towns of every, bit of sovereignty they can, other than paying taxes. Latest Act 46, that's the latest thing we have to illustrate that thematic. But, then it comes to a situation like this, where, at the end of the day, we could talk about all as Todd has pointed out, and I agree with him, that there's 100 different, issues and interests that are interplaying. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, who owns property on the lake and who wants to maintain their property values, period.
we could talk about fish, we could talk about anything, but at the end of the day, you know, Charlie Kimball and Alice Ditka, if they're still on the line, you know, the pressure needs to be put on the state, on the legislature to come to the table and do something about the dam, because it's regulation. You know, Vermont was just voted, we're always either number 49 or 50 in terms of over regulation. We're ahead of New York this time instead of being underneath New York. So we're 49 out of the 50 states. We got all this regulation, all this study, you know, studies, this, that, and the other thing. But when it comes time to come to the table and do something, you know, oh, now it's the town's responsibility. Now it's our responsibility to come up with the money. You know, it's an accounting error, the amount of money that it would take to fix the dam, and excuse me, the amount of money that we waste in the state of Vermont that goes to, you know, here, there, and everywhere. The amount of money this town sends to the state every year just for education. You know, what's it going to cost to fix the dam? $2 million, you know, million. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but come on, in the grand scheme of things, if it's that important to the town, you know, of Plymouth, and it's that important to everybody around the around the lake, then, you know, the state, we should be banging on the state's door. You know, Charlie Kimball should have an answer for us. So what do we do? Well, who's going to pay for the? I don't think it's fair to come to the. You know, I agree with, you know, there's definitely positives for the town of Plymouth, but, you know, please don't come knocking on the town's door now. Oh, now the town's got to save the lake. I mean, the town does a lot. We do a lot. Everybody here does a lot, but I don't think it's Plymouth's responsibility. And I know that's a full data dump when I haven't really said much, but, you know, I've been listening, and that's how I feel. I don't, you know, maybe I'm speaking for myself. I don't know if my compatriots would agree with me, but there you have it.
There are a lot of people that use that lake, not just in town, from all over, from out of state. So trying to get those people involved with Alicia, what she's doing, that's going to take some time. The people that have their heart in this, you need to help these people. She can't do that. She's got a full-time job. Step up to the plate, put some skin in the game. Alicia, how can I help you? One of the things that I've done, I got pictures, historic pictures from Alicia and the O'Loughlin's. It's a 4-page document right now. I'm a history buff. I'm not a professional historian. I'm an amateur, but I've been putting things together. I want to get that out hopefully tomorrow, that you can put on the Facebook, etc. Distribute with your email D list, because it's very interesting. The stuff that I've come up with, the historical side, Plymouth Historical Society didn't have anything. Got some information today from the deed records, etc. And I'm hoping that that's going to give people the impetus that, wow, this is really interesting, and I really like this lake, and I really value this, and I want to step up to the plate. You got to help out.
I'm sure. I mean, that's why I'm sitting here. But I mean,
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm
realistic.
I'm talking beyond this audience of 50 people.
I'm just looking at it from a pure, but you know, boiling it down to, you know, the dam. You know, either moving it, getting rid of it, fixing it, building it. I mean, it's going to cost. Somebody's got to pay for it. So I mean, ultimately, who is that somebody? I mean, it has to. You know, I'm all for being in the effort and doing it. But my point is that, you know, there's definitely money. We just got $1 billion. It just came into the state from the feds. Governor Scott said that, you know, as far as he's concerned, he's vetoing anything that doesn't have anything to do with the 5 pillars he's outlined, one of which is infrastructure. So if there's $1 billion floating around, I'm sure that if we did, you know, played the political angle, meaning talk to our legislators, we can get at least half of the money to rebuild the dam. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Why are we going to kill ourselves to try and raise, you know, is that, I mean, I'm all being realistic.
Last point, there's not one single entity that's going to write a check. You need to beat the bushes and get all the different funding entities that can help, because you get the first one, then you can leverage that with the next and the next and the next. And you just got to get people to help you with the legwork, Alicia.
Todd, I don't understand. I mean, we pay taxes, we pay fishing licenses, voting registrations, everything else. I think the selectman's spot on. You know, this is a state issue. And I like what you said, it's an accounting error. I mean, we can raise all the money we want. We shouldn't have to. Why do we pay taxes? Why do I get a fishing license? I mean, this is a state waterway and the state needs to maintain it. They're the ones that need to get their act together.
We are all responsible for the waters of the United States and the waters of the state of Vermont. It's not one single entity that's got the responsibility. We all share it. Federal, state, local, people, businesses. We've all got to step up to the plate here, folks.
I think we all share that through our taxes. I mean, not to undermine what you're saying. I'm just saying, I think we all pay our dues. And I think it comes back to a legislative level.
Absolutely.
That's just my seeing it. I understand getting skin in the game. I understand that. Some people may have the means more than others. However, we all are taxpayers. And I feel like it comes back to that. And that's just my seeing it.
Yeah, I'd like to say kudos to Keith Capolini, one of our selectmen. I think he hits it right in the, nail right in the head. And I think it's being downplayed that there's only 50 people in this conference call. There's only 600 people live in this town full time. And for 50 people to show up in the evening, and that's 50 phone numbers. That's not including their spouses, their kids, and other people. So I think this town has really rallied support behind this. So I don't think that 50 people should be downplayed. Only 50 people showed up. Well, it's not a town of 20 or 30,000. It's a town of 600. So but thank you again, Keith.
Could I just say thank you? Could I just say thank you to everybody that has been here tonight? I worked on the waterfront at Hawk for approximately 18 years. And I got to tell you, there are thousands of people that use our waterfront, our pond. It is very, very important, from fishermen to kayakers to sailors. It's out there. There are people. Also, no one has mentioned the river, which I happen to live on, coming into the lake. That is going to be devastating. I had a hard time getting my kayak just out the river after Irma. Now, there's another thing, another job for the state, dredging the waterways, that whole bay in front of Alicia's house and the river as it comes in. There's an island there now, by the way, and it's just filling in every year worse and worse. And now there'll be no way practically out to the lake. How are people going to get to the lake to use it? You were talking about the boat ramp. No, you can't get there from the river either. It's a problem, and I do feel that the state should help us out, and maybe federal funding somehow. I don't have the answers, but I'm in. Thank you.
Oh. John? You have to.
Here's a question.
What's that?
I believe so, yeah.
Tom, did you have a question?
Well, maybe not. Let's see.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, everyone, for coming. And we have other agenda items if you want to hang out for those.
Ben, thanks a lot.
Not
Great
as
job.
excited.
Thank you. Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody.
I know.
Thanks very much.
You're never
Good
gonna
night,
not-
everybody.
So. You were pretty quiet there. You were just absorbing it. I get it.
I don't talk a lot, but when I do talk, it's usually hard to
Shut him up.
That's how I feel.
I put them all in a bag.
Say your opinion.
The state, you can't, if they want to regulate it, love what they do, then when
Too
they
much
put stuff to
lately,
shove, and it's time to put your cards on the table, then
And they were
pay up.
written by my
The
great
state
great
can rebuild the
uncle.
dam.
Oh,
That's it, write a check.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just remember,
basically. It is, there's more people on that than everywhere else. Surface heating on that, everybody gets a resource. It's a resource for the local economy.
You guys put all.
So how could you sit out?
I think something should be done about this.
And his
Let's say we
grandmother,
got
my
a study.
grandmother,
What are you
knew
gonna
each
do?
other, and I can remember when your grandfather came over.
The state has done nothing about money good, and that's been evident. And I see that mud going down and it's filling up all the.
But, so I was always wanting to meet the girls. He walked up to me and
Like literally.
2011.
Well, I see she's third down the road.
Well, you say you like to get solve problems and get to,
Oh, it's not my car.
you can't, I have the same view in terms of
Yes.
public relations. I can't, if there's a problem that can be solved, I don't like to answer around it.
Yeah.
I just want to solve it. Obviously, everybody's got vested interests one way or another, but sometimes you just gotta go for the jugular.
Everybody's like, everybody feels around that. It's like, it's the fact of the matter is that that's the fact here.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah, so we gotta figure out a way around it, or wait a minute,
Son.
What, so what do you live in town?
Took your dam out.
No.
What was better, was it better to just take it out?
Water, so 3 dams. Peggy's Pond, Woodard Reservoir. Woodard Reservoir,
This is an outreach.
back in the day, they rebuilt it, they sell them water to killing them, and that, so that's a huge benefit. So that was a win, but then that's no opportunity here, right? But we looked at rebuilding this dam that's remote, there's no reason to rebuild it, right? Why spend, yeah, why spend 3 or 4 thousand?
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
not cheap to remove them.
You gotta, last week, I met so many people and it's like, I'm trying to figure out. Okay, Kelly, yes. Yes, Kelly's like, she's like, Kelly and this guy named Otis Nelson, are like the biggest, they're like the biggest.
It sounds like the only way you impact it though is just access to it, so you have to send somebody new boat ramp, but the lake's still gonna be what, maybe something. That ain't gonna, you can still be able to run your boat on it.
Right.
I'm hoping the feasibility shows us, okay, this is the lake
Your name is
now.
Patrick.
You lower it 2 feet, this will be the lake. You lower it 4 feet, that'll be the lake, you know what I mean?
And then you can figure where you're at on there and
Yeah,
then make a decision if you're
So
selling.
if your dock is here, then you have to move it over here. You know, type of thing. We'll see what it shows. I'm interested in seeing it.
Straight dedicated to help move people's docks.
Yeah, maybe.
I won't kill myself.
I know that's.
Maybe it's part of the project.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
Well, make it part of the project. If you're gonna do it,
Yeah.
then we want our dock and then everybody to be happy.
Yeah.
Well, who cares if you, whatever, grass will grow. You go walk another 10 feet to get on your boat. I mean, it's not really the end of the world. It's just, I think a lot of aesthetics.
Yeah, I mean, the property owners are worried about home values, right? I mean, they've got a significant investment.
Well, lake access is lake access.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, then folks who were on the line, I think they just maybe bought this place. You see that place that was up on 100 there that just sold? It was 160 some odd acres.
Oh, really?
Right on with the had lake access on Amherst. Little house, like more of a bungalow than a house, but you know, and just sold like a couple weeks ago. I think it was those people on the line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's pretty excited about. Well, I would be too.
Well, he bought something. Now the lake's going down. Well, that should have been a meeting unto itself, shouldn't it have?
I think so.
Yeah.
Do we have the fortitude to carry on?
Okay.
Some of it we might be able to put off, but we should talk about the vacancies, right?
And those folks that you wanted, did you end up interviewing, what's his name the other night?
I ended up interviewing Margot.
Right?
Yep, and that was.
Not what,
Oh, yes,
Mr.
yes,
Cooper?
yes, we did, Mr. Cooper.
You did?
Yeah, we had a good conversation.
Yeah, Sean said that he was once a tax collector somewhere, wasn't he?
A constable and tax collector in Barnard, we learned.
Yeah, he was a constable, huh?
He was in law
assistant
enforcement.
judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Did
knew.
not have to be an attorney to be an assistant.
I knew that he was an assistant judge because our paths crossed in my political forays. He's involved with the Republican Party. Didn't really know him then, but now I do. Go ahead.
Do you live next door to him?
We're not, no, contiguous neighbors. He's the old Stan Wyman house. The first house on, oh yeah, yeah. We consider it the first house on Davis Road on the left. You first come down. No, I'm on the complete opposite side of the road. Another.
And how many acres do you own?
I bought 65 up the top of Dry Hill.
Okay.
My house is on 5 off of Davis Road. I'm not contiguous to the parcel.
Okay, got it.
My neighbor at the end of Davis Road is, that was part of the whole Davis Empire, and they had the whole thing, 2 parcels, the house on 30 some odd acres, and then the 60 some odd acres was contiguous to it.
Okay.
And attached, but they could have now, if the guy would have waited another 2 months, he would have, because of the COVID craze, he would have sold it for big money, but
everything in life.
He broke off the 60 acres and sold it to me.
Prior to, yeah, I just moved over last night.
Okay, new business. Assistance for the clerk treasurer.
There's a couple items there that we could use assistance with, and I'm sure there'll be more, but that's basically everything we could think of. There's a piece of paper somewhere on your desk. It basically is, I guess it's pretty much what Cynthia is doing now anyway. Reconciling bank statements, that would be a help.
Okay.
Filing invoices and helping Elaine with doing the cards.
Okay.
Cynthia works for Nemrick.
Yeah.
So.
She's some sort of director of something or other.
File cards in the drawer from recording. Is that what Elaine does now?
Yeah. And that can take a day or two, she records and then puts those up. Filing all the invoices, that could take a day or two. They pile up every week. Bank statements from people. It sounds like a simple thing, but it's time consuming.
And then just looking ahead, and we know you're busy, a lot of it's dealing with inquiries in the office, right? A lot of people
Right.
come in. Cynthia's asked for certain things over time, because that's something that this person could be assigned to.
Yes, she could do that. I have sent some things to Cynthia, but I do have more to send her. I have been negligent in sending Cynthia some things, I admit.
Okay. And so I think looking at some of these things, I wonder if we could get somebody that's actually a bookkeeper for a number of hours a week. And
That was going to be my question. Like, there's nothing that prohibits the town from hiring a full-time accountant, is there?
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like if we were a business, say, we're, ABC Inc., couldn't we just have an accountant on our payroll and let them do the books and everything else? And then,
well, we could do that. Often, I mean, that's like we have an accounting firm that does the audit. And often you can get accounting firms that will do bookkeeping, but it's often a little bit more, I would say, cost effective. I mean, you'd have to judge the quality, but more cost effective to have a bookkeeper, just hourly wise, I would guess accountants are $70, $100, probably $100 an hour. And we might pay, but there's
like certified CPA versus
quote unquote bookkeeper.
Right, yeah, so, so that's a consideration. I don't have a strong feeling either way.
I don't have a strong feeling either way either, but that would be just my default idea.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we just show it. It's not even a concern for the town, really. It's on, John Smith CPA, and we rely on him to sort everything out and present us with a, clear, concise,
Okay.
everything. I don't know.
Well, we could talk to a couple CPA firms and see if they handle those kinds of transactions.
Yeah,
Seems like-
I'm just
Yeah.
throwing this out.
Yeah, good idea.
On the table. I don't know. I don't even know the answer
Yeah.
to the question, but yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to learn what it would cost.
So did we say this person could do some of the stuff that Cynthia does?
Yes,
No?
yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Well, there's a savings right there because
Right.
if we hire somebody by the hour, it'd be a lot cheaper than Cynthia.
Yeah, I think the thing is what, the challenge is a lot of the manual entries, right? And Cynthia double checks a lot of the
Yeah.
manual entries and make sure things are prepared for the audit. And we could switch, we agreed to sign on for a number of hours this year. And so we could think about doing it hourly next year if this arrangement.
I thought we were gonna go hourly this year.
I thought we decided to go,
Did we?
yeah.
Is this all hard data input into the NEMRIC system?
Huh.
So this,
My
could
memory's
be,
wrong then.
but
I really
not-
thought we went
Yeah,
to
some of
hourly.
it, the bank reconciliation.
Because she didn't use the full hours last
this
time.
Woman,
remember?
Margot, is
And they
probably
took
quite
care of us,
efficient
so
in
they
that.
Huh?
She could
They
have the
didn't bill us
listers,
for
so she
all
could
the
They
help
data.
they
us.
didn't, but
What
I
do
think
we
that was
use
an
then to
exception.
maintain our accounting?
I think normally they
Do we use,
would.
like,
Okay.
QuickBooks
And they were
and all?
thinking
No, we
culvert
don't do it.
and
We
blah,
just
blah,
use
blah.
everything
Okay.
NEMRIC.
Everything's NEMRIC.
Do you remember, Cynthia gave us two proposals, one for a lump sum and one for hourly?
And I don't remember which one we chose, but I can let you know.
Yeah,
Because it's in our minutes, right?
because
I think it was a
Jay and I have
lump
different recollections.
sum.
Do you
Let me
don't,
check it
you
out.
may not know,
I
recall.
don't remember.
All right, we signed on NIMRIC. They gave us two proposals, one for a lump sum. I forget what the number was. And then one for an hourly rate.
There's a thing in here that we just read tonight.
Yeah, well, I think that wasn't that their normal maintenance thing?
There was a cloud.
Yeah,
It's a
that was-
cloud
Oh, that was for the
contract,
cloud, okay,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
that
that's
was
different.
The 5 licenses.
Yeah. Because last year, they came in as a lump sum and the board
Right.
signed it. And it was for X number of hours. I forget the number. Let's say it was 300 or 200. And they ended up only billing us for 150 hours. And normally, under the lump sum contract, they would bill the full amount. But they made an exception because of the culvert and she wasn't able to come to the office. Everything was remote and blah, blah, blah. So they only billed us the hours. So they billed us short of what the contract was. So then when they came to renew the contract for this year, they gave us two proposals, one for a lump sum again for X number of hours, lump sum, and then one for an hourly rate. And I thought we agreed that we would sign the hourly rate one because we thought we could manage the hours and keep them a little lower. But Jay thought we signed the lump sum one. So I was just curious on which one we signed. Whatever it was, it's over, but
I'll
I'm just
check it out and let you know.
curious.
And this was the last meeting?
It was a couple meetings ago.
Yeah, a couple meetings ago. It might have been pre your time.
I've only had one meeting. This is my second one.
All right.
I don't remember that from about 2 weeks ago, but I don't think,
Okay.
I don't have a recollection.
Well, anyway, if we can reduce her hours, that would be great. But if she was under a lump sum, I don't know if we can reduce her hours, but
Probably.
whatever.
And she would be considered the bookkeeper we're talking about? This is another thing.
Yeah, this is another thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Never-
another, this is,
And it helps, but it requires a lot of information, and that's to get the books in order for the audit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the work that's getting, and to make sure that, Sandy doesn't have time to do all of that, so she helps follow up, like checks on the ledgers, double checks and entries. It's kind of an intermediary between the auditors and in the office.
The auditors are via their NEMRAC, right? Isn't it? No,
It's a
that's a
separate, yeah.
separate.
Firm.
We have that. That's the letter that's dated the 13th.
Yeah.
That's who's doing the audit right now.
Yep.
And they said, they pointed out NEMRAC was one of our, and there are 3 problems that we had, was right?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yep.
No, I don't really understand the NEMRAC system.
I didn't either first, and I think I have a limited understanding now, but.
Because now, does the bookkeeper have to interface with that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's going away, is that right? At NIMRIC at some point, did they say they were gonna?
Really?
Part of it is, it's
Okay.
with recordings, I think.
Okay.
The state developed another company and it's not in the works yet.
Okay. So
They bid it out.
Got it. All right, so I misunderstood.
Oh, really?
So do we have a treasurer, right?
Mhm.
Which
That's you,
Treasurer and clerk, and we have assistant clerk and treasurer, that's Elaine.
right? And then so we wanted to strip out treasurer or make a separate treasurer.
Well, there's so much going on.
Or
that
some of it.
Somebody would work under the treasurer. And
Some
I
of the
think,
duties.
like Elaine has been swamped
Right.
with a lot of the stuff that's actually the property stuff that's going on with
Yeah.
zoning and.
So would that be the bookkeeper then?
Yeah, so we're thinking of like a part-time,
Right.
very limited
Got it.
part-time.
I'm just trying to make sense.
Yeah, no. And I spoke to Margot Martell, who wants to help who would be willing to help the listers out, a very qualified lister. But she wants to work 2 days a week year round in addition to some extra hours in the busy season. So we need to find out from Michelle, I think, does that make sense for the listers to have that extra person on 2 days a week year round? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
All right, now I did talk to Michelle about that.
Okay.
Right? And she said, yeah, 2 days a week would help in her busy time, but in her slow time, and I don't know when that is and how long it is, she thought she could do without those 2 hours.
Right.
But Margot wanted a steady commitment of at least 2 hours.
Okay.
So that's when the conversation came around, maybe between you and I, or somebody had the
2 days.
idea. Maybe,
2 days, right? Not 2 hours, 2 days.
yeah, 2 days, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Maybe if she was the best qualified person for the lister position and we needed to fulfill that 2 days a week and the listers were slow, could she jump in and take on some of these chores? But the problem is, and she's in and out, what happens when she's busy?
Right, so that's a certain
And
time
then
of
what
year.
happens to this?
And the accounting suffers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Okay.
What was it, didn't you say?
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, I don't
correct me
know.
if I'm wrong, you said she can't, she doesn't live here, or a lister has
She
to
doesn't
live
live
here?
in Ludlow, but she can be an assistant, but she could not be a lister.
Yeah, okay. She can't
Be an
a-
employee.
She
Yeah,
can't be an official
yeah.
lister,
Right.
so we gotta find it.
But she can do most of the duties of a lister.
So we need a Plymouthite to be a lister,
Are you
right?
volunteering?
Me? No,
To be a formal lister, yes.
I've already got things, we're already the same two of them. There's two, we might as well have another meeting while we're here. No, I can't, not doing it. So there's gotta be somebody, right? I mean, we got the ad, anybody
Yes.
reply?
Yeah, it's
Now-
the listers, delinquent tax collectors and the highway department, the ads are.
All right, so we don't have an ad for this position, this bookkeeper.
No,
Okay, should we run one?
I think, well, that, to Keith's point, do we check in with the CPA firm? To see if they
Yeah.
want to take it on, or do we want to check with, we could also check with temp agencies to see if they provide employees that have a lot of experience, like, I mean.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Because then you don't have an employee and workman's comp, but it's just one lump sum or one hourly rate. And sometimes they're real reasonable too.
Well, I'll do a little asking around and the CPA route too. I can ask around about that, so we have something to compare.
Right,
Okay.
to see like what would a CPA charge a town, to be a.
Okay, so we're gonna hold on that ad?
I think that's worth holding. and-
Yeah, let's hold.
just let me know.
Okay,
And that'll be my homework between now and the next meeting to make sure I make those calls.
okay. So Sandy, the other ads went in, right? Or
They
this
did,
week?
they're in the papers.
Okay. All right. We put a deadline. I saw it was the Thursday before the next meeting.
Yeah, I did the 13th, so that gives you an opportunity
That's
to
great.
look over.
That's great. That's good. That's
people
smart.
who would
I think
apply.
that gives plenty of time and gives us time and. All right.
Do you expect a bunch of people to apply? No.
Hard to say, but no.
Finding employees, I think, is pretty challenging.
Oh,
For a number of
sure. I'm
reasons.
talking to a bunch of people who can't hire nobody. You know? It's like nobody wants to. They'll stay home for 700. They ain't gonna come to work for 5. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do stuff like I know some builders in New Hampshire are just like they'll pay stupid money if you want to go hang sheetrock or just stuff that this. If you want to work, there's work.
Yeah.
Like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, then should we talk about, we have the review management letter from R.H.R. Smith.
Was that in your pile of stuff? I can't remember.
I circulated it before.
I have it from your
Your
email.
email, just to make sure.
It's email.
I'm gonna have to make a phone call. I'll be right back. You guys could talk about me.
I wanted to, that's why I was gonna ask you, and then I totally lost my train of thought on my diatribe, but why, what's the story behind the people that own it? Why don't they pay for it?
Well, I think that it was, they unwittingly bought the property with the dam on it. They didn't, their attorney probably didn't do the diligence that was
Oh, they
required.
didn't have any idea.
And yeah, and I don't know if they have the capacity. I mean, that's probably a pretty stressful thing. You think you're buying like a $300,000 house, right? And all of a sudden it comes with probably a $400,000 or $500,000 liability.
Or greater, I mean, much greater if it blows.
Is that a second home?
I think they live there. I don't know. I didn't ask that, but can you imagine buying, a house and then
Man, you buy a house, you get an inspection. You think somebody would have said, that's a structure, let's get it inspected.
Yeah.
Figure out.
It's not far from, far from imagination that the realtor dropped the ball too,
I know. What
probably didn't know, or,
God.
soft pedaled it, who knows?
It's a real bummer to find yourself there, I would think.
Oh, even legal, I mean, my own deal, stupid, straightforward land deal. What I did, the lawyer screwed the whole thing up, the wrong deeds.
Yeah.
So could just be another situation like that.
The letter from RHR was pretty much like boilerplate, right? I mean, I didn't see a lot.
Old outstanding checks, accounting software, and internal control policies.
Yeah.
So we have a problem with checks piling up that are old or that went out and never got cashed, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to police that.
Here's one of the problems I have, Keith, is this is the same list of stuff that was on a letter a year ago. The same stuff.
From the same
Yeah,
folks?
same firm. I mean, pretty much the same issues. And they were bought out and then just never got resolved.
They might have cut and pasted a little bit then.
I don't know. And,
I mean, the accounting software deal, I mean, there's not, every town in the state of Vermont's using it, so what are you supposed to, there's no way you get out of that, can you?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything in the statute that mandates we must use it?
I don't think so. All we need to do is comply with, it's like GAP for government, right? Generally accepted accounting principles for, usually it's for, and it's just for government, so.
Therein lies the thing with, I mean, I'm just here devil's advocate again, but if we did hire a CPA and they use, like most CPAs today, QuickBooks or the other one, Intuit, right, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
Like as long as their results are uploadable in a format and apply and comply with the accounting standards, how could the state say no?
Right.
And that stuff's a lot easier to use than Nemrick. I mean, have you ever used
No,
QuickBooks?
but I've heard it's easier.
That's way more straightforward, I mean, for the average.
A lot of towns use NEMRIC, though. I think they have a monopoly on it.
They do.
It would be interesting to see what the some other towns are using.
I had sent an article to him from 7 days.
I read that.
You got,
Yeah.
did I send it to you
Yeah.
too? Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a whole cottage industry that's grown up around it now. It's profitable to help towns, wade their way through it.
Yeah.
And now that the new security breaches in it, that's another cottage industry. Now you got to come in and, now the town's got to hire a consultant to help patch all these holes. But yeah, it's a monopoly. So I don't know. I'm always one for going outside the box. I mean, if the town could do something different and we can get away with it and it was more affordable and easier, why wouldn't we do it? I mean, that's amazing. I mean, if they're saying, yeah, it's a problem, well performing, you can read, I mean, there's all sorts of articles and reviews about other towns. I mean, I remember they were interviewing some selectman somewhere and it was like, this is crap. There's no good vibes about it. I don't think anyone feels positive about it.
It'd be interesting to see what somebody from the accounting firm, R.H.R. Smith, thought.
Strong. We were concerned that the town staff using the software struggle with the ability to use the software correctly. Town should assist in getting the proper training. Now, that's the other thing. Yeah, training. I mean, yeah, they make a lot. These consultants make a lot of money to provide training, but you know what I mean? In QuickBooks, it's $100 now. A year for if you don't buy the hard copy version, licensed cloud version, and then they got the video tutorials, and it pretty much does everything for you. And if you make a mistake, it bubbles it. Go back 3 steps to I don't know.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I think it's worth looking at.
So Sandy, we were looking at, we got on the list reviewing the letter from R.H. Smith. And it has these issues that they bring up that it seems I read the same issues a year ago when they issued their report, and they don't seem to be getting addressed, and we're trying to figure out what we can do to help you with that. And that's one of the reasons we hired NIMRIC, but we still have the same issues. So while performing our audit for the above-mentioned fiscal year, we noted the town is carrying old outstanding checks. The town should review outstanding checks greater than 120 days for accuracy. It is.
What I'd like to do is, I know Cynthia's been very busy doing other things, but she and I have not been talking. Maybe when she's finished with the audit, even if it's going over the chart of accounts, going over what to do. And then maybe I could deal with some of those issues. She's instituted some new accounts I'm not even familiar with. So I think she and I need to communicate, and then we can hopefully resolve those issues.
Okay, so.
Like the bank statements, etc.
But, all right, this particular one issue here is talking about checks that weren't deposited for over 120 days.
Oh, that's never happened. We
Okay.
usually deposit it every week, sometimes.
All
it does
outstanding checks greater than 120 days.
Well, you should
Town
have to
should
point
review-
that out to me. That's what, 4 months?
Yeah,
Are there folks carrying
3 months?
checks like
No.
well, that's what,
vendors?
this is from the accountant, not from
Well,
them.
he would have to tell me because we deposit them on a weekly basis or every other week.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, I really need to discuss that.
Well, okay, well, that came from Smith, R.H. Smith.
Yeah,
Okay. Town should consider sending these checks to State of Vermont, Abandoned Property Division. Locate the vendors. Outstanding checks should be monitored regularly to ensure they are clearing in a timely manner. The town should also ensue an appropriate void option, what appears on the checks. All right, accounting software. While performing the audit for the above mentioned year end, it was noticed that the town utilizes Nimerick accounting to process day-to-day fiscal transaction, tax assessing, and day-to-day town business. We see this software as a vital tool in operating town business. Having said that, we are concerned that the town staff using this software struggles with the ability to use the software correctly. The town should assist in getting the proper training to its town staff so they can be better understood in how to use the software correctly. That's why we hired Nimerick.
To tell us exactly what the new accounts are, but we haven't done that. She hasn't done that with me.
Okay,
And she's taken some accounts away and put some accounts in. I really need to know what's in, what is transfer in, transfer out. I don't have a clue.
okay, so you're saying there's a communication problem
Yes.
between you and Cynthia? Okay,
And I know she's been very busy with the audit and doing bank reconciliations. She's doing a March bank reconciliation, which is nice, but I'd really like to deal with the accounts and where things go. We've instituted a new garage repairs, and now we lump everything into there. So I think she and I need to talk, if not in person, at least however else she wants to do it.
she has indicated she's willing to come here,
Oh, that's fine. She can come here, we can
if
talk.
that's easier.
Spend a day or half a day is about all I can manage.
She works for these folks?
Yeah, Nimerick. She
Oh,
works
no,
for
she
Nimerick.
works for them.
Nimerick, yeah.
That's
She's a-
Nimerick,
She's
yeah.
a training specialist with Nimerick.
Yes,
And we found her to be very helpful.
So the town hires her to help with the Nimerick.
right,
And she works for Nimerick.
right.
Got it, got it.
Cynthia,
Yeah, I've seen
okay,
in the email
yeah,
chains,
yeah.
trying to keep it
All right.
straight.
Internal controls. As a result of recent audits, it's been noted there have been inconsistencies in timing of deposits, checks not being included or on warrants, as well as timeliness of bank reconciliation being completed. We recommend that management establish an internal control policy that outlines the structure of day-to-day operations. Example, the timing between when money is received by the town to when it is deposited in the account. Do we have a delay in depositing checks?
About a week sometimes. I don't do it every day.
No, but I wouldn't think they mentioned that if it was just a week.
Yeah, so I'd really like to talk to her about, it certainly isn't 3 months.
We can get on a call with Cynthia.
This is
Yeah.
Smith, right? I mean, making these
Well,
recommendations.
yeah, and we could ask Cynthia what help.
Yeah, okay.
She's,
I
Give
got
us
you
some
now. I got you.
examples.
yeah.
Yeah. The appropriate time after month end to reconciliate the bank statement, 10 to 15 days.
That I have not been doing, I admit, bank
Is
statements.
that possible? Is that,
Yeah, that's possible.
okay. Personnel authorized to approve individual invoices.
So we asked at one time to have Larry sign and code
We did.
invoices.
I do ask him if I have a question.
That's not acceptable. He needs to write on there and sign. I think that's what they're getting at.
I would like to see him do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will you be willing to have that conversation with Larry?
Oh,
We
yeah.
can get the list of account
That'd be
numbers.
fine.
And, if it's winter sand, he writes winter sand on it, signs
Right.
it. And I think, because I think they're looking for that accountability.
I would like him to sign off on everything.
Okay.
Can you?
Usually I get the bill.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets it.
No, he
But
doesn't.
then I can make a copy because I always keep the original and stick it in his box. He needs to come in more than maybe once a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week and check that and write down what account it should go to, because sometimes it's confusing.
Because when we sign the warrants, we should be able to look at an invoice and see who's ever's approved that, their
Should
signature.
be signed off on it. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so you'll put copies in his box.
Okay.
That's a
every
good idea.
bill-
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Then you're not
exactly.
waiting on him.
Just have him stop in once or twice a week.
I will have him do that.
And then the
Check it.
burden of proof is off you.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden it's transferred to,
I'm not quite sure where, La Valley, he
Yeah.
gives us a lump figure. And then he has the individual statements.
receipts, yep.
Couldn't you just submit the direct receipt?
So,
Like if he has a bunch of receipts for whatever, and he
Yeah,
gives you, couldn't he just give you the receipts?
Yeah, he could do that, but he's gotta tell me what each one is for. Sometimes it could be for something that I don't know.
Sure, or you can write it at the top.
You can just put that right in there, garage supplies.
He should code them. We have code numbers for everything and he should code those numbers.
Oh, does it tell you what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's even better.
Yeah, it's a no brainer. It's not that hard.
So just you just need to put it on there.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
yeah, my invoices don't get paid at work unless I write a job number and my
Yeah.
signature's on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise it goes back.
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm ready to go to all that, but I do need some clarification on a few things. And Cynthia and I, when she's finished with the audit, we need to talk.
I mean, I'm just obviously still trying to get my mind around everything here, learning, but I mean, we have obviously accounts, right, for the town. Do we do any type of like online banking style, like, like where everything is?
Just in a credit card, but that's the only way. If you want to pay for your property taxes, you could do a credit card, but the credit card company charges you almost 3%.
I mean, in terms of just like, we log into our, Plymouth
No.
bank account, if you do online banking, it does all this stuff, a lot of this stuff for you.
Just the
terms-
state sometimes will send us money.
Your
And they
state
tell us
shows
what
all
it's
your
for.
checks, when they're, you can click on cash, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of these things, like these checks, you would know what's outstanding or not, because it would be highlighted. In terms of being in line, keeping everything in line with, your auditor and everybody else. If we had even this person doing the audit, they could log into our account and look at it and say, oh, look, this check's out of line or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, are you going to talk to Cynthia or I just don't want to duplicate the effort?
Yeah, no, I can do that.
Okay, it'd be better if one person is appointed with Cynthia.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Okay. Awesome.
And I think the last thing on our list, and if there's.
I got
is there
one other
any
thing
more?
under new business, website, actually old business. Is there anything new on the website or we?
I've sat and actually played around and built a couple of things just to see if, if I'd like Mix and, or GoDaddy and, I got some rudimentary numbers back. I mean, we could spend a whole lot of money or we could spend close to nothing, assuming that I built it myself. I mean, I guess where the rubber meets the road is the functionality part of it, exactly what we want to put on it and how streamlined you want it to be. Because I know, like in our discussions in what's the other thing we're all on there, the zoning board.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff can be so automated that, you wouldn't have to do anything. Like a zoning report, it could be to the level whereby someone can log on and fill it all out, and not even, there would be no paper ever, other than the thing that you'd print that Jim Allen would sign. I mean, you could go to that level or it could just be basic, I'm talking about in terms of something that I could do, like you could have a PDF sitting there and you'd click on it and print it out and still fill it out. I mean, there's that, what's her name there? Carol had pointed out a bunch of things that should be on, I mean, no point fingers at you, but, yeah, obviously the stuff, the town plan, for example, should be the new one. It should probably be in there's different cool generators that, that you could use instead of just clicking on a PDF and having it come up in a reader. You can make it look like a book, so to speak. So you can flip through, so it's easier to use. There's all different types of.
Yes.
It could be like really cool and slick and, and there's obviously, if the town had the resources, we could definitely, I could definitely work with a designer and a talk and get it to, tell them what I want and, and be like, yeah, that's cool and get it. Or if you didn't want to go that route, I could build something that would be pretty neat and functional, but it wouldn't be a lot of bells and whistles. I think it's more about what the town wants and needs and what they want to spend. Like the options are kind of limitless,
Yeah,
like,
right. What do you think's adequate for what we do?
I mean, I'm all about like, I run 2 separate condo associations and I've just taken over another one and I'm all streamlined, just got done streamlining all the finances and all the condo docs and everything. I hate paper. So I think the easiest most straightforward, least cumbersome, way to where, and I think a lot of the complaints from people have been, I think people are looking for that, especially the people that come up, because they're used to it, wherever they come from. We don't obviously have that, but it'd be cool to have that. Like if you wanted to fill out a zoning permit, it goes, obviously, it's got to be seamless on all ends, because if you're not having a paper thing to hand around, you have to be used to on the user, the supply side of it, we'd have
We
to
do
be.
like paper though.
You do see? Yeah.
And Elaine likes paper. I
Right.
mean, we could change, it's just that when she comes to filing it and we distribute it to other people.
Right, well, that's exactly what I'm getting at. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to skin the cat, it's.
So how do we, she's a cat lover, be careful.
I hate
Yes,
cats.
be very careful.
I can't
I
stand
didn't
them.
make good fox bait, but I won't say that. Hey, how do we move this forward?
I mean, however you want.
What's the next step? Figure out what we want?
I think it'd be wise to know exactly what we wanted before you start, make something and then, I think if like, okay, fine. See, if we've got to still operate in a paper environment, then I don't think we need to go to the investment and, trying to make it the sexy thing. I think it could be a functional thing that's updated and easy. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I'm not necessarily volunteering myself to be the full-time administrator of this website. So I would like to see it be very user-friendly on the back end. Like a WordPress site is like, it's about the easiest, most straightforward interface, back office. Like everyone would be able to log into it and you'd be able to, I could sit and show everybody, here's how if we got to update the minutes or whatever, here's how you do it, and that would be
easy.
People like to see the minutes, they like to see the agenda. We don't need them from the dark ages. And they need to be able to go on and get something for filing a zoning permit or something like that. They need it transparent so they can maneuver on our website. Now I think it's just so difficult to find anything.
Yeah, and all you need access to really is like the town plan, zoning bylaws, and a zoning map. If that was like
Right,
just
right.
that'd be awesome.
If I was given the charge to look at this project, I think one of the things I would do is probably look at surrounding towns first and look at half dozen different websites and then pick one and say, yeah, that's what I want our website to look at, and then go from there. Does that make sense?
I've done that because hopefully we changed a while ago. But Vermont.gov, is that something that you've seen?
That's our state's website.
No, there's something else. Maybe I'll see what it is. Like Bridgewater's got one that's sort of decent and it seems to be easy to navigate. But I checked that out about a year ago, so I can let you know.
Some towns are using, like Stanford, they have a basic, like the bare bones of WordPress site. I mean, it's a WordPress platform, but it's, I think it's rudimentary, it's bare bone. It should, I don't know. I think all the things that people are complaining they want to see should definitely be easily accessible and easily updatable. Maybe even automate. I mean, like our schedule of certain things, that could be somewhat automated in terms of like the monthly meeting.
Right.
Like it could auto populate. So like, unless it's got to be changed for some reason, like we're not going to have it, but
yeah.
So it's always listed. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Can I give you a list of things we'd like to see in it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. We need to,
that would be helpful. That would be great.
So, I'm sure I'll miss a few, but basically what I hear people complain about.
Oh, I know the zoning thing's huge. So.
Okay. Cool.
I don't think you want to, there's got to be a limit too. I mean, in terms of what people need to know versus what they want to know,
All right, want a motion?
The last thing I just wonder about is constable. We don't have to talk about that tonight. We could punt that till next week.
Oh.
He was just wondering what else you wanted him to be responsible for, which is
we have a new one, right?
Josh Linton.
And he has police training.
Here, I got it, sorry, yeah, just another thing triggered in my mind that I was gonna bring up, but I don't have to, I can punt it too, but it's an issue down on our end of town. That I know, I got a call from, Steve Heilner. Have you guys heard from him at all? I know he had talked to Sean about it, the Jeremy thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and now it's come to a bigger head because I go to the Tyson church down there, and he's been, you know, at the church and on the steps of the church, and you know, the church congregation wants to go back to church now, and you know, they're concerned about this guy's being down. So I'm talking to Steve, long story short, he wants me to, and I throw this out, this is what I was gonna ask you guys, how you felt about it. He wanted me to try and get Charlie Kimball and the rep from Ludlow together here in the room, you know, meaning use the power of the select board. I mean, it could be me, it doesn't have to be all, but to get them in a meeting so that they can deliberate and try and solve this problem, because it's like it's right on the border, and you know, Steve's gone to the sheriff, he's gone to the, you know, the Ludlow, no one wants to touch it really, but it's like a mental health type issue whereby they got to try and do something, you know, the state's got to step in and either, you know, put the guy in an asylum or give him meds or something, because he's, you know, he's just wandering around and, you know, getting in trouble. So I don't know.
Okay, so if I was a legislator and I heard that complaint, I think all I would do is refer you to some of the agencies that are out there that deal with this sort of thing, whether it be mental health or homeless people or whatever the agencies are out there. I don't know, but I mean, I wonder if we can do that with a phone call. Could we call Charlie and say, this is the problem, and who can help
Or
us?
email him or something, I don't know. I mean, Steve was pushing for a meeting, you know, whatever, I don't.
Okay, well.
I didn't tell him yes or no.
I think the issue is, right, they've talked to the police, hasn't committed a crime yet.
Right.
Mental health is sort of a tricky issue. You have to be able to the burden of proof is probably on somebody else to take action, right? And so nobody's touching this thing, and yet residents are living in fear down there.
He showed up, I mean, I'm only, you know, I don't know, I don't remember him, I'm only regurgitating what I've heard, but he was on somebody's doorstep with a knife, and, you know, he's been peeping Tomming, and, you know, somebody got in a fight with him, in an altercation with him, like a serious altercation, and had to pull their gun. So like, it's not, you know, he's a danger to the local populace.
Right.
And, you know,
wow.
As you say, he's not, you know, no, the cops don't really want to do anything. They took him away, I think, for a night or something. The sheriff did.
Yeah, they did a while ago. I remember that. But
And
I don't remember the circumstance.
One of the sheriff's got a concussion. I think he headbutted him or something.
Oh, that's right.
apparently he's supposed to, you know, he's not on this, he's got to be on meds, but he's either don't have the money or the wherewithal, or I don't know.
I know those are tricky, but like, I mean, it'd be good to have that conversation with somebody, right? See if we can get people some help.
If you're on meds, you have to take your meds. Maybe that's what he's not doing.
That's what Steve was saying. I mean, Steve, you know Steve, right? Yeah, environment. I mean, he's all gung ho about it, but yeah, this is a mental health thing. We got to get, we got to put the pressure on. Like, I don't disagree with you, but
how to go about it? Helping.
Wow, that's a tough one. Who's the Steve you've been talking about from Ludlow?
Steve Hollander?
Yeah, I don't know him.
He lives on Dublin Road.
Lives up the hill for me. He
does?
You know Cindy Summer?
No, is he a selectman or something in Ludlow, or he just a
No,
neighbor?
he's he's a Plymouth resident.
Oh, he's a Plymouth resident.
He's was a fire marshal in Connecticut.
Okay. All right, I got it. I thought you said Ludlow.
He knows Mike really well. They're all about the roads and all that crap.
Wonder who we can call.
Well, you could see if any of the hospitals have a department. Rutland might have something, or Springfield, some sort of mental health department that could give you some assistance.
Can they legally do anything?
It's very hard.
That's going to be the rub, but
it's very hard.
we got to have a conversation, right, to at least start. figuring it out.
All right, who's gonna run with this one? You wanna
Well,
run?
I've kind of already been pigeonholed. I just wanted to throw it out to you guys to
Yeah.
see if you wanted me, what you wanted me to do before I started doing anything. I didn't want to, I've never tried to deal with something like this. And I didn't, as I told Steve, I wasn't gonna, I would ask the select board, what they thought
Fair
and see
enough, fair enough.
what, before I commit to trying to set up some type of, cross-border meeting here. But I mean, from listening to him, it sounds like he's exhausted every avenue of trying to get the law enforcement community involved.
Yeah.
And now he's like, I want to take it to the next level and see if we can, get some, get the reps to maybe be interested enough to try something, or, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not an easy job to do, if he's trying to commit him to something.
Well, Cindy, his wife, is the trustee, one of the trustees of the church. So she's vested in trying to, get the church open and, get the people back in the church. So he's kind of, taking on the role of trying to solve it, for his wife. And
I know he's contacted the sheriff, but maybe it makes sense for you to contact him as a member of the select board. You might.
Does he live at home with his mother?
Sorry?
yes, he said something.
He used to, I know that, but
He lives at home with his mother?
yeah. Maybe the sheriff would have some recommendations on what to do if they can't act unless there's a crime. I get it, but maybe they will know what agency to.
What's our path?
Point us
What's
to.
our path forward on this? Yeah.
I mean, they must deal with mental health issues and stuff all the
I
time.
would think pretty regular.
Well, we're referring to the dude, the sheriff here that works for us.
Yeah,
Yeah, or Sheriff Chamberlain.
yeah,
The
their boss, these are deputies, and so the sheriff, Chamberlain might know where.
he's probably the first stop, right?
Do we have a direct line to him?
Well, I think if you call his office, I'm sure he'll get right back. He'll get back to you. As a representative of the town, he's pretty responsive.
Yeah, tell me your selectman.
What's his last name?
Chamberlain,
Chamberlain.
Sheriff Chamberlain. It's written on the side of the sheriff's vehicles. I saw it the other day. I forget his first name.
Michael.
Michael, there you go.
I often talk to this guy here down. He's always at the store.
Yeah.
We talk about hunting or whatever.
Tyler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see what I can do. I'll give him a call. If he,
That'd be great. Yeah, that's a start.
I have,
That's a start.
I email with Charlie from time to time. So my first idea was just to, have a
Well,
I sent Charlie Kimball an email and see just to
do that
gauge his,
too. See what he says.
his feelings about coming over for,
Maybe he will come over. Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. If it satisfies Steve's concerns that, we're doing everything we can to try and get in the middle of this problem and solve it.
I myself, as I say, I've never seen the guy or been, I don't hang out down. There hasn't been any church for a year now, but as of next Sunday, church is going to open back up. But it sounds like it's kind of, that this guy's going to come out, could potentially come out and, scream at somebody. So who knows, or do worse.
Yeah,
Could be scary.
I think he's a threat.
Do you think he is a viable threat?
I think so. I think he's gonna hurt somebody someday.
Based on past,
Yeah.
at least
Well, everything I hear. I
I
never met the guy either. I don't know
Me
him.
either.
Wouldn't know him if I saw him, but I
Yeah.
just know what I hear say.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
No.
But can our constable do anything?
He may have the same legal barriers that the sheriff does. And maybe if he took action, he should know maybe that's a good person to talk to as well. Ask Josh what he thinks.
Who?
Josh Lintel.
Oh, yeah.
He's got police training, but we don't want to, gotta be careful about putting him in a position of liability or
Yeah.
danger too, Because if he had to act, he's on his own. Or the sheriff, they went in with a team of people, I think 3 or 4 people, and what, state police was involved maybe. And that's when one of the deputies got hurt and was out for a week, 10 days.
What's the name of that development he lived in, Sandy, up by the lake? Didn't he live up?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you with your
What,
mask
yeah, I'm
on.
sorry. What's the name of that development where he lived? Up by the lake, up by the park, isn't that where he lived?
I do not know.
That condo little,
Oh, it's off of Route 100, but I don't know. That's where his mom lives.
oh, it lives on 100?
I think so.
Okay, I'm getting it mixed up with somebody else then. There was another
Birch
story.
Landing?
Yes, did he live there?
I don't know.
Or well, that was somebody else, and never mind. They did a raid up there and they got somebody a year ago. He had guns at the window and blah, 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 and they arrested him. That's a different person, right? That wasn't the same one.
I don't think so, but I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking of somebody else then. All right. I'll make a motion. We adjourn if there's no other business.
I'll second.
There you go. Everybody in favor? Aye. Good deal.
Well, thanks for sticking with us, Patrick. It was a long one.
That might be a record. At least
Well.